And we are live. Welcome to the MLB Deeper Dive. It is Monday, July 3rd. I am Josh Engleman. I'm joined by Adam Scherer. We're brought to you by Prize Picks. 6-game slate for tonight. I'm really starting to enjoy the Monday night slates. I love the condensed nature, not 13 or 14 games at a time. So this should be fun. And everything will be better than everything that happened on the early slate for me. So hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. Adam, what's up?
Not much. I'm with you. I like these slates. Like I would prefer it, be 8, 9 games, but
Yeah.
not going to complain about 6. And yeah, it's nice. Like the huge slates, it's like you have to have the absolute nuts to win. But yeah, decent slate size.
Yeah, it'll work for me. I mean, tomorrow we should be. I assume we'll get. I haven't looked. They didn't post any prize pools or anything for at least the 1 o'clock slate yet, but I assume we'll have a pretty fun 4th of July tomorrow. So
yeah,
that's good. Something to do. Congrats on the second place, by the way. Yeah, when you had sent me those messages, I thought it was for the night slate. So I was just like, oh, he's probably picking up like 5K or something like that. Nothing too crazy. I didn't realize that it was second in the one that we had been sweating all day. So
it's understandable because the game didn't start until 7 p.m. on slate that started at 1:30. So
yeah, that was a little bit, ended up being a little bit later. So, oh man, yeah, it's fun. That's good momentum for you at least.
Yeah, like I was saying in the Lofty too, the big thing was just getting there in extra innings felt really good because I truly don't think I have ever benefited from them.
I can't picture it for myself, but sure, surely it's happened.
Yeah, like it probably has. I'm pretty confident that I can say like I've never gotten a huge win as a result of it because I probably would remember. I'm sure it's happened, for $500 here and there or something.
I don't ever remember anything, so I would never know. My memories of anything good that happens, I lose it all.
I distinctly remember what I consider one of my worst beats in DFS, being in like the top 3 spots in NBA, needing a Jokic Phoenix game not to go to overtime. 3-point game, Rubio pulls up from the other side of half court for a buzzer beater, gets fouled by Malik Beasley, makes all of his free throws to go to overtime. I plummet. So I distinctly remember it hurting me there.
Yeah, that one hurts me just hearing it. It's not fun, man. Well, we got 6 games to go through. We can certainly take our time breaking everything down. We do have a little bit of weather concerns, but probably no weather concerns, but not enough to like truly make any decisions as of right now. So keep your eyes peeled for that over the next 2 hours. But I'm ready to get started if you are.
Yeah, sounds good.
I was lying to you. I'm not ready to get started because I still need to grab our top stacks tool and top pitchers tool for
Jordan messes up my mic this morning. You can't start a show.
Jordan messes up your mic.
No, he did. He had me change the settings, and we started the show. And Luffy's like, "Can you put the settings back?"
You should try having a mic. Oh, did you plug it in?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, now it is.
That sounds so much better.
Yeah, no, before that, it was just sitting next to me
or something. I mean, that made like a distinct difference. I mean, that's why I asked. You certainly didn't sound like that was on your desk.
Oh, yeah. No, I had no idea it mattered. Because it's vertical, so I didn't think it would matter.
What? We're not getting into this. I was gonna say, what knob do you have the gain tuned to on the back? That might help too, but it's not worth it. It's certainly not worth it. Are you ready?
Yes, I've been ready.
Yankees and Orioles, 4.2 run implied total for the Yanks, 4-4 for the O's. Domingo Germán and Tyler Wells going here. Germán never done a damn thing for me. Wells 13% owned at 7,700. These guys are both priced right around each other. They're both owned right around each other. Which guy is better to you?
So I think there's very similar plays where neither one is a true priority on the slate, but they're both solid enough options given that we only have 6 pitchers and that a couple of them are very bad. They're both just probably a little bit cheaper than they should be. I prefer Wells if you can find the extra $500. Better strikeout numbers this year, 26.5% K percentage compared to 23.5% for Domingo Germán. The other thing is that the Yankees lineup is just kind of weak right now with no Aaron Judge, but it's not a quote unquote safe spot for either guy either. This is one of the few spots that's like actually good for hitting today. You have very good hitting weather in Minnesota, but Yankee Stadium as a park for home runs stands out compared to anywhere. So it's a risky spot for either guy, but they are both pretty inexpensive, and they're getting ownership, but they're getting a bit less than the guys that are truly getting ownership on this league.
I basically don't have either guy right now, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I am getting pretty heavily to the Orioles and at least to the field of the Yankees. But for right now, it doesn't appear that Wells and Ehrman are going to play a big role for me. I'm more concentrated on Blake Snell, which I'm sure is no surprise, Joe Ryan at this point, and then if it's Michael Grove going for the Dodgers, which I think is still up in the air at this point, I do like Grove for 5,300, but we could have that conversation later. Let's talk bats. I assume you prefer your Orioles.
I do.
Well,
especially from a stacking standpoint, they just have more guys that I would want in my lineup. You don't have Jordan Westburg today. You don't have Austin Hayes today, but you still have all this left-handed power. And we know not only does Yankee Stadium play up left-handed power and all power, but Domingo Germán's allowed a 220 expected ISO to lefties this year. Not going to be easy for him to just walk through Gunnar Henderson, Rutschman, Santander, O'Hearn, all 1 through 4. Mullins hitting 6. Hicks back in Yankee Stadium should be interesting. Hitting 7. That's a lot of left-handed power for him to deal with.
Yeah, so right now I have 36 Orioles stacks. I'm 2xing the field in ownership, so I'm cheering for your boys today. Getting to nobody more than Gunnar Henderson in the leadoff spot. $4,700 shortstop, third baseman. That's the kind of guy that I do want to have a shit ton of. So that works out perfectly for me. I'm happy to get to Baltimore, but I don't mind getting to the Yankee side. It's just more of a neutral play to me than an overwhelming play. I'm surprised. Are you? I guess it's a pitching thing. Are you surprised to see the total in this one?
It's a little lower than I was expecting, just given that it's relatively warm and they're in Yankee Stadium. But the pitching's not bad. It's a really interesting spot because like the pitchers are good or good enough. 4.24 xFIP for Ehrman, 4.15 for Wells, 26.5 K percentage for Wells, 23.5 for Ehrman. But they do both struggle with power, and this is not a good park to struggle with power. Wells' his only issue really this year has been the home runs, 1.85 home runs per 9 innings. The thing that's really interesting about Wells is that if you look at his splits, he's allowed a 250 actual ISO and 253 expected ISO to righties this year, despite pitching his home games in a park that kills right-handed power. He's still just giving it up to righties. And you are getting a Yankees lineup that is running 8 right-handed bats out there. The only ones that are truly good are Torres and Stanton. But you have a cheap LeMahieu leading off. Clearly, you're not going to write off Anthony Rizzo just because he's left-handed. Bader's got some power. Donaldson, who knows what he's doing at this point. Anthony Volpe, I think, made a stance change and has started hitting again. So don't know if that holds or not, but he's seemingly turning things around, at least for the time being. So it's just a really interesting game. And as far as the run total too, 8.5 total, 8 to 9 runs is totally viable considering that the pitchers are talented, but it could still be a really useful fantasy game because you could just get 5 home runs and the score ends up being 5-4.
Can you imagine making a stance change as Anthony Volpe, in the majors? Your whole life has just been success at baseball.
They do it all the time.
I know, but I just can't imagine doing it this quickly.
Yeah. He also was hitting like shit. And I don't know how drastic it was.
Okay.
I just saw tweets about him making adjustments to his stance. I don't know. Yeah. I don't think he turned into Tony Batista or anything. But
yeah. It's just weird to think about that. He's basically never failed.
Right.
At this point in his life, it's just been a jetpack straight to the majors. And you get there and it's like, oh man, I stink. Let's just mix it up a bit.
Yeah. I feel like I'm kind of we do
that.
Huh?
We do the technical version of this constantly.
Sure, but I was thinking, I grew up on Cal Ripken, and that dude changed his stance every 2 weeks.
Yeah, he did. Now I look at it like me and you being like, oh, we shifted GPP. How many things can we change in our sheet today?
Right, exactly.
We do it the reverse. If Volpe came up and was he had a 180 WRC plus and then did it, that's the equivalent of the nonsense that we'll pull.
Yeah, exactly. I changed
my sorting.
Right. I've won a tournament every week for the last month. I just scrapped everything I'm doing and let's see what happens now.
These conversations have happened before too. That's I'm not even joking. way more frequently than they should. Best bat in this game.
Gunnar Henderson.
Yeah, I agree.
I think
It has to be, right?
Like Rutschman as a catcher is a pretty strong second choice, I think.
Yeah. The MP, the third short MPE is just so damn valuable.
Yeah, it's slightly less expensive leading off.
Yeah.
Stanton's my favorite.
He's not the guy that I have the most of, but I wouldn't mind it. Torres is the guy that I have the most of.
Yeah, no problem.
I would say Rizzo is probably like the most interesting just because 8% owned and 3,800, but yeah, I don't know.
In the sim I ran earlier, in the sim I ran for my video earlier, he was projected for like 8% ownership. I think I got like 13. The one thing, and again, like this isn't to say don't play Anthony Rizzo. Wells has struck out 30.5% of lefties and held them to a 268 expected WOBA compared to 23% of righties, 316 expected WOBA, and all that power I talked about. Again, Rizzo's really good, but as far as like who my favorite bats are from the Yankees, it's going to be a power hitting ready.
Rank the game?
Orioles, Yankees, Wells, Ehrenberg. The other interesting thing here is like both of these lineups set up really well to maximize the opposing pitcher's biggest weakness.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're getting the 8 righties from the Yankees up against Wells. You're getting a sea of lefties for the Orioles. Does Ehrenberg go out and throw another perfect game? Take me to second and third?
So my narrative here is that Ehrenberg sucks because he's not going to risk getting caught cheating today after throwing a perfect game last time out. And I'm pretty sure the only games that he pitches well, he cheats. So my theory is that there will be no pine tar on his hands today, and he will get it up.
I hope he only cheats in the lineups that I have. I mean, I didn't have much last week. I just happened to have him in the spot that it mattered the most. But
Royce Lewis cannot catch a break.
What happened?
Grade 2 oblique strain, expected to miss around 6 weeks.
Ooh.
Those things take forever to come back from.
Yeah. It's just so like really hard to stop. Like you got to rest a lot. And
right.
It's just
I remember Ryan Mattis got one from sneezing and was out for like a month and a half or something.
I mean, that's just soft.
Yeah.
I do remember that though. I mean, I can picture like stories of guys like throwing their back out and shit.
Yeah. I mean, it's not as good as Troy Patton, who was an Orioles reliever around the same time. Missing like a month because he sprained his ankle, and the story finally came out that he was like drunkenly stumbling to his car and sprained his ankle.
We've all been there. When I asked you to rank this game, I legitimately think it's even. 13% ownership going to Ehrenberg, 13% ownership going to Wells, 10% aggregate to the Orioles bats, 9.5 aggregate to the Yankees. Like there's not a lot of wiggle room for what's happening here.
You could put it in any order, and I'm not going to argue with you. In my article, I wrote this up as the game of the day, and it's not that any one part is the best stack or pitcher. It's just that like it's all good plays.
Yeah. I assume it's the game I have the most of. Yeah, it is not close either. Works for me. Go hitting in this one. Alrighty, well, hit the like button if you haven't done it already. 425 people, 71 likes. We should be able to jump up over that 100 mark with no trouble. Schedule for the rest of the day, simple. MLB Live Before Lock coming up next. You don't want to miss it. Stay on this stream. It will be here all the way up until 7:05. And then we got to talk a little bit about BetMGM. I know, I talk about BetMGM a lot. I like talking about BetMGM. You guys should like me talking about BetMGM. If you're in a legal sports betting state and you have not signed up at BetMGM yet, stop what you're doing, pause this video, click the link in the description, and go sign up. You're going to get 1 month of Stochastic Plus Platinum for free. Right away, $140 value. You don't even have to worry about it. That's just the easy part of all of this. The second piece is where I think you guys can get the biggest benefit. Deposit whatever you can. It needs to be at least $10. But my recommendation is to try to get $1,000 in there, which I know sounds like a lot of money. Your first bet will get paid back in bet credits if it loses. So if you put that $1,000 down and it wins, you can just go about your day. You can take a giant chunk of it right back out again if you want, or continue to build your bankroll. If it loses, though, you will get that back in bet credits. You'll be able to take another shot using that money. So you'll basically get 2 shots at it if you want them. And that's only if you lose. This is the perfect opportunity to start a sports betting bankroll for yourselves. I highly recommend it. I can't wait to use it in, I hope, January when everything is legalized in North Carolina. But if you have the opportunity and you haven't done it yet, take advantage now. Must say, though, the legal age for gambling in most states is 21 or over. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Game number 2 for today. The Guardians taking on my Atlanta Braves. I'm going to take them in again now that they're just absolutely exceptional at all.
Stars.
They're so good. I mean, their lineup is insane. They're priced now normally like they play in Coors every day.
Yeah, exactly.
We've got Gavin Williams going for Cleveland. Ooh, Guardians versus Braves. That's an interesting little battle of we're better than you guys now from a naming perspective. Bryce Elder going for Atlanta. Neither Gavin Williams or Bryce Elder pulling any real ownership. But at first glance, I would say I don't want this, but it feels like Gavin Williams should be owned a little bit more.
I was actually thinking Bryce Elder should be owned a little bit more.
I mean, more than I don't disagree there, but I think it's more Williams than Elder. It just is obviously a really difficult sell.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Williams is, one, Michael Grove appeared. So you have a value pitcher if you need it facing the Pirates. The other thing is that the pitcher pricing is so soft elsewhere that I just don't think you're going to need that value all that much. So I agree Williams is going under-owned in the sense that his top 2 pitcher percentage is higher than 5%, but and he's got plenty of talent, but it's just such a brutal matchup against Atlanta. I would view him a little bit differently if Snell were 10-5 and Ryan were 11K and Brian Wu were 8,600, and you just had Gavin Williams down here where you're actually getting additional bats if you go to him. As is, it's just purely a tournament pivot where you're saying hey, hopefully variance is on my side and Gavin Williams has a big game. From that angle, it's fine, but it's really just like an individual lineup type play, I think, where, I have popular bats, I have one of the popular pitchers, and I'm going to play him instead of Brian Wu or something for the ownership. I don't view it as a spot where I'm looking to get a lot of him. And it's the same with Bryce Elder. It's the same kind of thing where if you make all those other prices more expensive, and you make Bryce Elder 8,100, I'm pretty interested. But as is, you have somebody that has about a 20.5% strikeout percentage. He does have a 3.88 xFIP. He's a good pitcher at, preventing runs. It just doesn't necessarily translate to DFS. And he has a difficult strikeout matchup rather against Cleveland. It would be one thing if those guys were more expensive, but when you can just say, oh, instead I'm going to play the guy with a 31% strikeout percentage for $500 more, obviously you're going to do that. You can save money and go to Tyler Wells, who has a much higher strikeout percentage also. So that's why you're seeing the low ownership. But in individual lineups, in large field tournaments, I think he's a good way to differentiate because he does have the ability to just give you 7 innings here of shutout ball against Cleveland and strike out 4 or 5 and be a good play.
It's another spot where, just like the previous game, I essentially don't have these guys. Basically one lineup of Williams, one of Elder. Same story going on in Yankees and Baltimore for right now. It's more just either getting with the field or doubling up on the field. In this case, I am doubling up on the field with the Atlanta Braves. 20 stacks right now. I have 16% aggregate ownership. Field is at 8. They are our number 1 stack in the top stack tool. And
there's something interesting. I just saw it in chat. Somebody said Michael Grove is so bad. As a starter this year, and obviously it's not the biggest sample, but as a starter this year, Michael Grove, 20.5% K percentage. Bryce Elder, 20.5% K percentage. Michael Grove, 7.2% walk percentage. Bryce Elder, 7.3% walk percentage. Now, Michael Grove's BABIP is 80 points higher. But as far as the things he can control, he has identical numbers to a dude who is on the National League All-Star team.
That's a weird take.
Which, and I'm not trying to say Grove is really good or something. It's just he's not actually been very bad.
Yeah, I mean, 10.5 Ks per 9 last year in AAA, 12.5 in the 10 innings he's thrown so far this year. There may be some stuff in there we'll talk about Grove later. We don't need to get there yet. Let's talk Braves bats. They are top stack. They are very easily the not top value today. Do you expect to get to Atlanta? And I guess if you are, how are you offsetting it with either pay down pitching or pay down hitting elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to get to Atlanta. In the sim I ran earlier for the video, I wasn't getting to a ton. I like the idea of it. You have this great offense at modest ownership facing a rookie pitcher in Williams. Tons of upside here. The problem, like you said, there's not like the pitching is cheap enough today where you can get Atlanta stacks, but it's probably going to be pushing you more towards the bottom of the order. Like it's going to be really tough to get an Acuna, Albies, Riley, Olsen, Murphy stack and not be like playing Michael Grove and Domingo Herman or some shit.
I was going to say it becomes the easy build there is expensive Braves bats, Snell, Grove.
Right.
So at least Snell is 8,600.
Right. And then like the Twins or something.
Yeah. And then whatever is available.
Right.
I mean, I got 23% of Acuna right now, 27% of Albies, which I really like given his current ownership, 17% of Riley. Like I said, 23-man or 25-man Brave stacks. I hope that holds by the time we get here. And I haven't really like massaged anything or taken like a really deep look yet. So I'm finding the amount of salary that I need. I am 2xing Grove, assuming he is in. It's not stopping me from getting to Joe Ryan. It's not stopping me from getting to Blake Snell. So I assume everything that fills out my Brave stacks is pretty gross.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, I mean, I would love to get to them. I like the idea of it. Based on how pretty much every slate has gone, I just assume I'm not going to get a lot. It seems like every slate, it's either they're too popular or they're too expensive, but they are projected to go underowned. They are very good. It is interesting to me they only have a 4.6 and 5 run total. Like on the spectrum of Braves, that is really, really low.
Yeah, only 74 degrees today. I think that's probably the most important factor. And I think Gavin Williams is fine. Yeah.
Yeah, he projects to be like an average-ish pitcher right now, and probably be better down the road.
Do you have any interest in the Cleveland bats? They're 8th in ownership. They're also 8th in our top stack tool and 8th in our stack score. I have 8% aggregate. We're projecting 8.3. I'm just like straight neutral to Cleveland.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I see it. It's a 6-game slate, so if you're playing a bunch of lineups, you're probably getting to them at least somewhat, but nothing that really stands out. Elder limits power to both sides of the plate. Ramirez is at the top in ownership at 14%. That's always going to be fine. Jimenez, only 4K at second base, getting 11%. Naylor, 3,900, getting 10. Those are the only 3 Guardians in double-digit ownership, and they're all perfectly fine. But it's not like you're looking at Bryce Elder and seeing anything that looks really good. That's Williams. 143 expected ISO to lefties, 117 to righties, 300 xWOBA to righties, 308 to lefties. He's a good overall pitcher.
Yeah, most exposed guy that I have right now. Oh God, it's Bo Naylor. I don't like that at all. Jose Ramirez is second, so I'll take what I can get there. But I got a little bit of everything. More focus on the Braves. They're my 3rd most exposed team behind the Orioles, and we're going to get to it shortly. The Padres. Rank the game, I guess.
Braves, Guardians, Williams, Elder.
Yeah, I agree. Other than, I think the Braves have to be ahead of the Guardians. I think this, and have to is a pretty strong statement, but this one feels a lot like the Yankees and Orioles game in that it's pretty bunched together for all pieces. It's just the Braves are the first thing that we've had so far that it clearly has the ceiling that every other piece we've talked about on this show so far doesn't have. They do, but the Braves ceiling is way bigger than both pitchers, the Guardians, the Yankees, the Orioles, and both pitchers in that game. Right?
I didn't hear what you said.
The Braves bats are on a different level than Guardians bats, Yankees bats, Orioles bats, and all 4 of the pitchers we've talked about, right?
In terms of upside?
Yeah.
Or in terms of how much I expect to get?
In terms of upside.
Yeah.
Okay. After that, I think everything we've talked about is in the same bucket.
I mean, I think that Elder and Williams are behind the Orioles and the Yankees and Wells and Herman.
Okay. I don't see too big of a difference other than Williams has a shit matchup.
Yeah. And Elder just doesn't have anywhere close to the same strikeout stuff as the guys in the Yankees game.
Yeah. All right. Twins and Royals, 5.1 run implied total for the Twins, 3.6 for your Royals. I'm really excited to find out how you're getting to the Royals today. Joe Ryan on the hill for Minnesota. Austin Cox going for Kansas City. Lots of jokes that can be made there. 10K for Joe Ryan, 5K for Cox. You can get 2 Cox for 1 Ryan in this situation. You shouldn't get him at all. 1% owned. Don't play Austin Cox. What do you want to do with Joe Ryan, 10K, most expensive pitcher for today?
Yeah, I mean, he looks good. And the thing is, 10K is a reasonable price tag, probably a little bit low given the matchup, but it's just so easy to get to him still because even if you were to go to Logan Webb, the next most expensive pitcher on the slate, you're still spending less than 20K on your arms. You have a cheap Minnesota team with the highest implied run total on the slate. Like you can still very easily get to Joe Ryan. 36% ownership. Don't really have a problem with that. The only negative here is that the weather is certainly conducive for hitting. It's hot, it's humid, the wind is blowing out. But Ryan's going to look good. You don't have a ton of power for Kansas City. No Salvador Perez in the lineup either. Hopefully makes it so I get to less Kansas City than I normally do because he's usually a big reason I get there. But it just makes that lineup even weaker. Yeah, I mean, Ryan certainly looks good. Still only a 3.3 implied run total for the Royals despite the weather.
If 1, 2, or 12, I don't know the proper way to say that in chat, but I am doubling up on Joe Ryan today. He's in 77% of my lineup. So if anybody's looking for a fade, there's part 1 of the fade discussion. But I'm getting to all things Joe Ryan. I'm certainly not getting to Austin Cox, who is not very good, which should lead us to talking about the Twins. 3rd in top stack, 1st in value, number 1 in ownership. How are you handling the Minnesota Twins today? Because I think they're a very interesting discussion point.
Yeah, so they were showing up a ton in the Sims tool earlier. If that ends up being the case for me, I'm perfectly fine with it. I think that there are ways you can differentiate. And I think the ownership is still perfectly fine. We have them 1st in stack score. We have them just behind the Dodgers and the Braves in top stack percentage, but they're all between 13 and 14%. 28% chance of being the top value stack. It's just such a good spot, good hitting conditions, and the ownership coming in around 15% aggregate just isn't high enough that I'm that concerned about it. The most popular hitter is projected to be Buxton at 22%, especially on a 6-game slate. Like I just don't really care that much. If you 5-man stack them, say you use like Jose Miranda at 10%, Christian Vasquez at 12% or something, you don't need to get that different with the rest of your line. It's not like you're talking about this team pulling 30% ownership or something. So I'm still pretty happy to get there. Austin Cox doesn't project to be good. There's nothing about him that suggests he's good. He's a non-prospect, 26 years old. Fangraphs has him as the number 32 ranked prospect on the Royals, not in baseball. So, 8 starts, 10 total appearances at AAA this year, 5.2 xFIP, 6.8 FIP. He was impressive in his first 7 major league appearances, all out of the bullpen. I think he retired 39 straight guys or something, but it is totally different when you're being brought out of the bullpen to match up with guys here and there, as opposed to starting a game. And he did get lit up in the 1 start that he made. He doesn't project to be good by any projection model that I've seen. It looks like a really good spot for Minnesota.
Yeah, I don't love what I'm doing, but in a way I do. I'm leaving them out of my 5-mans, but I am getting them as a ton of 3-man stacks with everything else. Filler for the Braves. That's a reasonable way to approach it. Yeah. When I see these teams that are pulling a ton of ownership at the top, and they obviously have a really good upside for a 6-game slate too, but when it's so value heavy, I like just leaving it out, taking my chances. As long as they don't nuke the slate, then I like them more as filler, and I'll take my chances getting to a couple other teams with a couple extra 5-mans that I'm not getting to. But they clearly look in the aggregate like the best team because they're so easy to roster. There's just no salary here other than the guys that should have it.
Yeah. The one little bit of pushback I have, not even pushback, just talking about them as a value stack. They have power too, is the thing that makes this tricky. This isn't like when the Tigers are in cores and it's yeah, they're clearly the top value stack, but they're probably just going to get a bunch of singles and doubles and not really do a whole lot that helps you in fantasy. Carlos Correa, we know, has a ton of power. Buxton has a ton of power. Kyle Farmer, since the start of last year, has a 182 expected ISO against left-handed pitching. Jose Miranda's north of 200 as well. Taylor's got speed and at least some power. For a catcher, Vasquez could hit a bit. Solano doesn't have a ton of power, but he's 2,500 hitting second. He's going to put the ball in play a lot. But the fact that you have, Correa, Buxton, Farmer, Miranda in particular as guys that really do have power just makes it even scarier to get away from them because you're not just trying to dodge the big inning where they just all get a bunch of singles and doubles. Like these guys can just hit home runs.
And I basically don't have the Royals because Joe Ryan is in 75% of my lineup. So today is not a Royals day for me. I'm not super mad about that, but clearly rostering Bobby Witt or Salvador Perez is always going to be totally fine.
Yeah, if you go to KC, I think it's just an ownership play. Like they're a team you can certainly use to balance out either your Minnesota ownership or if you're going like Blake Snell plus, I don't know, Logan Webb or something. They work. Michael Garcia leading off at 3,300 is fine. Witt, Prado are fine, but really, really tough to actually want to get to this team. Lofty and I were talking about it this morning. The change in Joe Ryan's year-to-date numbers because of his last start against Atlanta, where he gave up 5 home runs. I think Lofty said he jumped from like 0.9 home runs per 9 to 1.2 or something like that. I know he's at 1.2 now. But overall for the season, sub 100 expected ISO to lefties, 176 to righties, but also a 31.8% K percentage to righties. And there's just not a lot of power in this lineup.
Rank the game.
Twins, Ryan, KC, Cox.
Yeah. Cox is definitely last for me. You can flip-flop Ryan and Twins, and I don't care too much. But Twins bats do look fantastic. This one's a lot easier to talk about than the previous two, that's for sure. Anything else in this game?
Nope.
Alrighty then. Hit that like button. We're up to 600 people watching. That's fun to see. We crossed that 100 barrier. So next goal is going to be getting up to 150. We got to talk about Prize Picks now, presenting sponsor of this show. You guys should be, watching the Prize Picks content that I put out every single day. Well, not every single day, 6 days a week. I take Saturdays off, but it's just absolutely smashing. I went 2-3 yesterday. That's like the worst it's been in 2 weeks. I think I'm 42-22 over my last 64 or something along those lines. 65-ish% winners. It's a money printing factory over here if you watch me cover Prize Picks. And we're going to make it a lot easier for you. Click the link in the description of the video. You're going to get 1 free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. Again, $140 value. Amazing start. And you'll get up to $100 on your first deposit. So put in 100, get another 100. Now you're sitting there with $200. You could put $20 down on 10 different 6-pick cards that can get you 25x your money. That is the goal right here, folks. We've got plenty of Prize Picks content either on the Odd Shopper channel, in Odd Shopper Pick'em package, Bet Pro. I'm getting the names wrong at this point, but we have a ton of different ways that you can get additional information for Prize Picks, or you can just watch my video and get the winners. I'm going to give Adam a couple of the plays that I recommended earlier today. We're going to see where he stands. But first, I got to grab the new lines because I've already gotten a couple messages about my video. I put this bad boy out immediately. The lines just move, and they move negatively for you guys if you're watching the video, but I'm leading you guys in the right direction on a day-to-day basis. I hope you're taking advantage of it. Where's hitter fantasy score? Where'd that go? There it is. Let's copy this. This is one of the few scripts that I have now that just runs immediately. It's so weird. I got to figure out whatever the coding is for this one. It works like gangbusters in comparison to everything else that I try to do. All right, let's see. We're in. Wow, we've lost quite a few dudes for today. That's kind of wild. There's like 8 less lines today now than there were before. All right. Are you ready, Adam?
I've been ready.
Of course you have. First one up for today. How do you feel about over/under 8.5 fantasy points? Sorry, more or less. Apologies, Prize Picks. More or less than 8.5 fantasy points for Shohei Ohtani.
Bush.
So this is my most extreme less than. I have it 67% of the time. He's going to go less than 8.5. Certainly doesn't feel good because this dude goes out and hits a dinger every day. And anytime I have him, he doesn't have it. Every time I'm going the opposite direction, he certainly does. How about
I
Carlos?
Screenshot the other day, finishing in 23rd with the 0 from Ohtani.
Yeah. Well, and we know he killed us a couple days ago. And then, he killed me and then he killed you on back-to-back days. Carlos Correa More or less than 7 fantasy points?
Hell of a lot more.
That is my number 2 play for today. I agree that it is a more. I have it at 62% of the time he's crossing that 7 fantasy point barrier. Just really like targeting against Austin Cox. Crazy like that, Final one. More or less than 8 fantasy points for Nolan Arenado today.
I have no idea. He's not on the slate.
Wait, is that really not on? Oh, okay. I'll give you another one. Julio Rodriguez, over on more or less than 7.5.
More.
Okay. That is a less for me. I got it at 59% less, taking on Logan Webb, who we will get to in a second. Logan Webb, my biggest pitching fade today, so that's not going to go well. Guys, sign up at Prize Picks. Links in the description. Padres and Angels. 4.7 run implied total for the Pods. 3.5 for the Angels. Blake Snell on the hill for San Diego. Jaime Barria going for the Angels. Let's get to Snell. 8,600. 46% owned. He's been pretty good in his last few starts from a strikeout perspective.
Yeah, he's been decent. We very quickly seen him just get back to what he does. It's just the perfect example of not buying into early season results one way or the other. You saw people just enjoying Blake Snell victory laps every day that he struggled. Like, why are people still playing Blake Snell? He's back to a 31.5% strikeout percentage, south of a 3.5 xFIP. He walks too many guys. That's been a thing his whole career, but great strikeout pitcher, very good pitcher overall. The matchup is scary. It always is when you have to deal with Trout, Ohtani, plus, other right-handed power. But you are getting them in San Diego instead of Anaheim, which is nice. Part upgrade for Snell there, or downgrade for the Angels, however you want to look at it. Everything considered, salary, projection, upside, Snell is the number 1 pitcher on the slate. That's not to say that in large field tournaments you can't go to the Angels. They do have plenty of power, and you're facing a pitcher that's nearly 50% owned, but this guy should be 10-6, not 8-6.
Yeah, I have 80% right now. I'm cool with it. Just looking at that game log of 10, 11, 12, and 12 strikeouts, and it's like, okay, even if he just has like 8, I'm in a really good mood today at that price tag. I have no idea why he's 8,600, other than just I guess the Angels are solid.
Everybody's just underpriced here. I have no idea. I do think it's important to mention FanDuel here too, just because 8,600 is a very DraftKings specific thing. 10.9 on FanDuel is still perfectly fine. He's the second highest owned pitcher there behind $9,900 Joe Ryan. I do think Ryan looks a little bit better just because he has $1,000 less. So Snell doesn't stand out to the same extent on FanDuel. You also have Logan Webb, $800 less expensive. But on DraftKings, he's $1,400 less than Ryan. He's $600 less than Webb, and projects as good or better than both of them.
I'm really enjoying how deep Snell is going into the game.
Well, I would
6'6", 6'7", 6'6" in his last few starts. It's just he's a guy that at least in the past tends to throw a few more pitches than you probably want him to throw, but he's still getting himself into the 6th inning for the bulk of these games. That's all you're looking for out of Blake Snell. If he gets to 6, you're happy as hell.
0 walks 2 starts ago, 0 walks 4 starts ago. Again, don't get used to that, but anytime he does that, it's going to be really good, because the problem you run into from a DFS standpoint with Snell is that when you get somebody that strikes out nearly a third of the batters he faces and then walks another 12%, you're just talking about so many 3-1, 3-2, foul ball, 3-2 again, foul ball, 3-2 again type counts where it can be tough for him to get deep into the game. And obviously, he makes up for a lot of that with strikeouts. And at this price tag, it really doesn't matter. But he had it early in the season, had any of those games where he actually just didn't walk guys, and you were reminded how good he can be. You have seen those recently. Again, they're not going to happen that often, but good to see.
Do you want any Jaime Barria here against the Pods?
Not really. Tough matchup against the Padres. Okay pitcher, but just doesn't strike me as a slate where I'm going to need to get to him too often.
I don't have any Jaime Barria at 5,500. 1, because I'm getting to $5,300 Michael Grove, and 2, because I'm getting to more Padres than any other team. This is my number 1 stack for today. They are 3rd in ownership. They're 5th in top stack for us. I actually have them 2nd right now. Talk to me about the San Diego Padres bats.
They look good. It's not a good hitter's park, but like we were talking about earlier, most parks on this slate aren't. 4.6 implied run total is basically tied with the Braves for the 3rd highest, just behind the Dodgers, and then about 3 or 4 tenths of a run behind Minnesota. They have a lot of talent, so they're always going to be pretty appealing to get to. In terms of ownership, pulling about 10%, 9.5% chance of being the top stack. Most of that ownership is probably going to Tatis 28%. Oh, I'm looking at FanDuel. I was like, he's 4K.
I was like, dude, I have 19 here. I might have a lot less Padres now.
Yeah, he's 4K on FanDuel, so I was really confused. Okay. 19% to Tatis at 6,200. Soto's next at 12%. Kim's at 10. Machado 9. I mean, as a 5-man stack, the Padres are pretty low owned. And if you were to play like not Tatis, then they're really low owned. So I do like them in tournaments. It's a decent enough pitcher in Berea, but certainly one of the weaker pitchers on the slate. He's not Austin Cox level bad, but it's kind of I would throw him in the same boat as like Michael Grove in terms of talent.
Sure. Yeah. So right now, my two most exposed Padres are both just over 30% of Tatis, just over 30% of Machado, but just over 30% of Soto, 22% of Machado, everybody else in the teens. So I'm filling out the rest of the lineup, even with these cheaper guys at the bottom. This is the team that I have the most of. I'm 2.5 times the field overall, 44 Padres 5-man. So go San Diego tonight. I feel like I never get a matchup against Jaime Barria, correct? So if anybody likes Jaime Barria today, it's probably the day. Angels bats here against
Cox numbers look better than Barria. Yeah, Cox has made one major league start, and it went really poorly. So you're looking at you're looking at 7 games of relief work.
I mean, 16 innings, dude. That's I've seen all I need to see.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Cox is putting up worse numbers at AAA than Barria's putting up in the majors.
I mean, Josh Gillum also called somebody a lefty that's a righty a half hour ago. So he's really nailing it today. All over it, Josh. And us Joshes do not have to stick together right now. Do you like any Angels bats here against Snell other than Mike Trout?
The Shohei Ohtani guy is decent. But no, I mean, I don't like any of the bats. I do think they're kind of an interesting stack. Like you have them with a 3.4 implied run total. You have KC at 3.3. I assume I will get more KC. I would recommend getting more of the Angels. It does strike me as a good leverage spot in large field tournaments. The top heavy $15, for example, 100K to first, where it's 33% of the prize pool. Like they have a lot of power here. And if they can just run into a home run or two against Snell, get him out of the game, you're knocking 50% of the field out right there and then just getting this high upside offense. So at least from a theoretical standpoint, they are a strong stack at low ownership, low probability, but the potential payoffs are just really good. Don't know how much I'll get to, but I do think that they're of the stacks facing the most popular pitchers. So let's say the Mariners, the Angels, the Royals. I think that the Angels are the one I would want to get to the most.
I agree. More often than not, you're not going to be happy with having it, but It is the quickest, direct line path because we know what it looks like when it goes wrong. Snell starts walking people, putting them on. Half the lineups die because of Snell. Ohtani doesn't give a shit, goes lefty, puts another one in the seats because he doesn't stop homering. And the Angels have a massive amount of power in this lineup. And all of a sudden, they scored 9 runs today and they're the stack that you need. And you've got a very clean path to the top once that starts happening.
And the thing I like is because that applies to the Mariners and it applies to to Kansas City too. Like if the other guy pitches poorly, then they look really good. For KC, you get the value component. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if KC ends up being the contrarian team that I use, just because they always seem to be. But with the Angels, it's just if you can get Snell out of this game, then you just have guys with 200 plus ISOs throughout this entire lineup at no ownership.
Rank the game.
Snell, Padres, Angels, Barria.
Yeah, I think that is the only answer.
You can flip Barria and the Angels.
I just think there's so much more benefit to getting to the Angels than there is to getting to Barria. Unless we somehow get Clayton Kershaw as the starter for the Dodgers.
Well, the Barria play would just be, what if the Pirates have a good game against Michael Grove? Michael Grove's not special. He's not.
That's fair. Fair. Giants and Mariners. 3.8 run implied total for the Giants, 3.4 for the Mariners. Logan Webb on the hill for San Francisco. Brian Woo going for the Mariners. 34% ownership coming into Logan Webb, 20 coming into Brian Woo. Let's start with the 34% to Logan Webb because while he is talented, and this is a good spot for a park at least, I don't see 34% ownership today.
Well, I was seeing 29 right now. Maybe I need to refresh. But either way, I think he's a good play. 9,200 is a really good price tag. Yeah, I'm seeing 34 now. 9,200 is a really nice price tag. 24% strikeout percentage this year. 61% ground ball percentage. In a park that suppresses power also. About a 25% strikeout percentage against righties this year for the Mariners active roster. 100 WRC plus. I do like him quite a bit. You also don't have to deal with the weather that Ryan does. You know, the heat and humidity that you're getting in Minnesota doesn't apply to San Francisco. So I think he's comparable to Ryan, especially when you factor in the salary.
I essentially don't have him. I would like to, but I don't really like targeting the Mariners. The park certainly helps him. But I have him so far behind. Like, when I compare him to Snell, who's his nearest comparison point, they're basically owned the same. There's not a huge disparity there. I have them projected pretty dramatically differently. Do you have Snell quite a bit ahead of Webb, or do you have it closer?
No, I have quite a bit ahead. I have Ryan ahead too.
Okay. And yeah, I have Ryan ahead of Blake Snell. I find it difficult to get to Webb. I like that he's 34% owned. Like, if he were 18 or something and I just had like a neutral amount to him, it'd be one thing. But if I'm just going to draw the line in the sand, I'd rather have it be like that. I would prefer the Woo side of this one. I don't have him either, but just given the price tag and given where the ownership is set up, is Woo a better option than Webb?
Probably, just because there's a lot less value pitching on this slate. Like, there's nobody in that price range that is comparable to like Snell or Ryan as far as competition goes. Woo clearly has the best strikeout stuff of any sub 7K pitcher on this slate. You know, you're comparing him to Gavin Williams, Berea, Cox, Grove. So he looks good. He's in a good strikeout matchup. He's in a park that suppresses power. He has had some issues with lefties. That's my big concern here. We don't have a Giants lineup yet, but you're likely to have Wade, Peterson, Bailey, Sable in there, maybe Conforto. And it's a very limited sample in the majors so far, but striking out 22% of lefties with a 232 expected ISO. And that is in the direction that you would expect for a right-handed pitcher. You know, if that was reversed, I would just completely throw it away. But there is a distinct possibility that he just struggles with left-handed bats, at least early on in his career. He's still really young. He doesn't have a lot of experience above AA. So it's a risky spot, but you do still have a 3.8 implied run total. He should just be more expensive based on his ability to strike people out.
Do you want to get to the bats on either side?
Somewhat interested in the Giants, assuming they run out a lineup that has the lefties it should. Wade, Peterson, Bailey in particular, Conforto if he happens to be in there, but it's still not a good park for home runs. It's like 60 degrees. So I'm not super interested in them, but I do kind of like the lefties. Patrick Bailey at catcher at 3,500, I think is probably the most interesting, just because you are getting that cheap price tag and you're getting a former first-round pick that so far in the majors is absolutely breaking.
Rank of the game. I have 0 stacks of the Giants, 0 stacks of the Mariners, and 0 of Webb and Woo. So
I don't understand how you get to 0 of those guys.
Pretty easily, I guess. I don't know. I mean, like, do you mean like mechanically or just?
Yeah, like I don't understand how in 150 lineups you just don't have Logan Webb or Ryan Woo.
Well, if it helps, I have 1 share of Logan Webb.
Yeah,
he showed up. And like, it's not a player pool thing for Webb. He's in 1,500 of the 5,000 lineups I have.
Yeah, I assume.
No, that was just like an informative statement, not necessarily
right.
anything else. No, just like it's not like I looked at it and was like, well, he's in 200 of the 5,000, so now I know why he doesn't show up. Like, he's there and doesn't show up.
Right. Yeah. So I think it's Woo Webb or Webb Woo, then the Giants, then the Mariners.
Oh, it's fun to say. Like, I wish that I was getting one part of this game, but I don't know. I'm also cool with not getting it.
Felix Bautista, American League reliever of the month. Gunnar Henderson, American League either player of the month or rookie of the month. Rookie of the month.
Fantastic. You ranked this game already, correct?
Yep.
All right. Easy thing for us to talk about now to close it all out before our final game. We got to talk about the MLB Sims tool. This is simple. It's very quick. We don't have like a special deal or anything like that going on. It's $180 a month. I know there's going to be some sticker shock there. This one's a little bit different. This is changing the game. This is going to be a tool that you're going to get very used to hearing about in the future in DFS. We're starting you guys off now, though. If you're interested in more Sims content, check out Adam's videos. He does a Sims video Monday through Friday. Greg puts one out on Twitter at least Monday through Friday. I don't know what he does on the weekends, but we got a lot of Sims content. Now we're on it. We're just doing it. We're approaching the game in a completely different manner. You're importing, let's just say the max here, 2,000 lineups into the Sims tool. It is simulating those lineups against each other over and over and over again, and it's providing you high-level details when it's done. Expected ROI rates for all of the players in the lineups. Expected ROI rates for stacks, for lineups themselves. You're getting high-level details in a way that you have never seen in the DFS industry before up until this point. These sorts of things have existed on the back end for the high-level players for years now. It's now much more accessible to you at $180 a month at stokastic.com. Please click the link in the description of this video if you're interested in checking it out. Please go check out Adam's videos or Greg's videos so that you can get an idea of what we're talking about here. What'd you say?
Mine.
Or Greg's, either way.
Leave Greg's alone.
Either way. Check out the tool, guys. This is going to make you a better DFS player by default. I'm confident in that statement. Depending on how much money you have, whatever your affordable income is for a given month, if you've got an extra, like a disposable income, this is a tool that you should get if you play a lot in DFS. You're going to be happy about it. So please come check it out, guys. Final game. Are you ready?
Been ready.
I had to tee you up for that one. It's the third time now. Dodgers and Pirates. I got a 4.6 run implied total for the Dodgers, 3.9 for the Pirates. Probably Michael Grove going for the Dodgers, Mitch Keller going for the Pirates. We don't yet officially have a starter for LA. It could be Clayton Kershaw. Doesn't seem like it's going to be Clayton Kershaw. And if it's not, it seems like it's going to be Michael Grove. Let's start with Keller, though, quickly, since there's no confusion here. 8,800 against the Dodgers feels like a tough spot to get to Keller.
It's basically the mid-range Gavin Williams play. Yeah. He was showing up a lot in my Sims video earlier, but it has nothing to do with Mitch Keller himself. It has to do with, in the Sims video, Minnesota stacks were just jamming the top of the, simulated ROI lineups. And if you're playing Minnesota, you need to find ways to be different because they're going to be the most popular stack. So Mitch Keller ended up being that guy in a lot of lineups. He's very talented. He has a very tough matchup. He's 8,800, so you did get a bit of a price drop like you did with most pitchers today. But he's only getting 9% ownership compared to 44 to Snell, 37 to Webb, 34 to Webb, 37 to Ryan. He has a 27% strikeout percentage and 3.38 xFIP this year. Like, if you want to compare him, ignoring matchup for a second, compare him to the pitchers on this slate getting ownership. Slightly better xFIP, lower strikeout percentage than Snell. Identical strikeout percentage to Joe Ryan, slightly better xFIP. Like, he's comparable. He has a higher strikeout percentage than Webb, worse xFIP. But in terms of talent, he's very comparable to these guys. It's just that Ryan is facing KC. Snell, not that the Angels are an easy matchup, but they're not the Dodgers. Webb is facing the Mariners. So that's why you're seeing such a lack of ownership to Keller. He doesn't project as well because of the matchup, but he still has that range of outcomes. He can just go out there and have a really good game against anybody. So he is kind of like I was saying with Gavin Williams. It's not that I necessarily am going to go out of my way to play a bunch of Mitch Keller because he's 9% owned, but in that individual lineup where you have a 5-man twin stack that's relatively popular, and maybe you're mixing in Fernando Tatis and another relatively popular Jose Ramirez or something, Keller makes sense in that lineup. Like, if that's your roster construction, it doesn't make a lot of sense to then play Blake Snell plus Joe Ryan. So that's where Keller fits in those individual lineups. How much Keller I get to will probably in large part be a function of, am I playing a lot of Minnesota or am I stacking up the teams?
If it's Michael Grove today at 5,300, what do you want to do? Because to me, he stands out as a really nice option at 5,300 given the matchup.
Yeah, I expect to get to a good amount of him. He was showing up a lot in the Sims tool as not only a good value play, but somebody that at relatively low ownership, 15 to 20%, was really useful in lineups and not over owned. He's okay as a pitcher. He looks like the best pay down option. The matchup against the Pirates is perfectly fine. So, not an ace, but he's 5,300. Assuming he starts this game, he's going to look pretty good. The risk, obviously, is that he doesn't. But just based on the reporting we've gotten, it seems like it would be weird if he doesn't. We have them saying yesterday that Clayton Kershaw might go to the injured list. That's totally different than even just saying, like, we might push Kershaw back a day. Like, might go to the injured list, especially with Clayton Kershaw. Like, the dude is, one, he's older, and two, he's had so many injury problems. That's not really the guy that you say, like, yeah, we're going to throw him out there and see how he feels after. We'll see what happens here. Like, he's too important for that. So it seems like at the very least they would push him a day or two. They've said that if Kershaw goes on the injured list, Grove is going to come up and get the start. So it kind of, to me, the only way that logically from what has been reported that it's not Grove is if they do decide to simply push Kershaw but not put him on the injured list and they don't have the roster spot to bring up Grove.
So I'm 2xing on Grove right now, but I am also getting to the Pirates. They're sixth in our top stack tool, but they are second in value. And that's sort of the more appealing factor for me. Other than going outfield out of the gate, I do like how cheap they are. I mean, all sub 2K or sub 3K guys, 4 through 9. So I'm happy to double up with Grove on the pitching side, but I do want to get to the Pirates in my non-Grove lineups.
Yeah, same boat. They were kind of just like a better version of KC where they give you a ton of value, but they just have better hitters. Somebody in chat said they don't know how Grove's an option tonight because of some of the Pirates hitters. Salary's the thing in DFS. He's $5,300. You should, if you haven't already this year somehow, maybe you haven't been playing a lot, you're going to be rostering worse pitchers than Grove at some point very soon. It's just how this works.
You mean you're not getting Joe Ryan, Logan Webb, the Braves hitters, and the top of the Dodgers order today? I wish I had 80K every time I played.
Right. Yeah. He's not a great pitcher, and the Pirates aren't even a good offense. Like, if you're afraid to take pitchers against the Pirates, you're just not playing pitchers. But if Grove were 7,300, he wouldn't be an option. But at 5,300, it's just how cheap he is, pure price play. But in non-Grove lineups, like, you can use the Pirates for value. So Winsky's only 3,300. Santana's cheap. Henry Davis, former number 1 overall pick, only 2,500. Brian Reynolds is Reynolds and McCutcheon are the only guys in the lineup that are more than Sawinski at 3,300. And those guys both obviously have earned it.
Yeah, I've got quite a bit of Sawinski right now. Santana in double digits, Austin Hedges in double digits if he happens to be in the lineup.
Guys, Sawinski can hit a 3-run homer against Grove, and Grove can still end up being the best value pitcher on this league.
Yes, he can. Look, he's 5,300, and the Pirates have a sub 4 implied total. Like, this isn't complicated.
Yeah, the only complicated part of this is, does Michael Grove start the game?
Yeah, that's the trickier part of all of it.
Like, the argument for just not playing Grove is a lot more appealing if you say it's going to be great if we get to this game and the Dodgers announce some random dude is starting and 20% of the field has Michael Grove locked in, more so than the Pirates.
That's the only argument.
Right. Like,
it's a 6-game slate.
Right. And like you said, 3.8 implied run total. So, like, if you're not taking pitchers against the Pirates, you can only take Snell, Webb, Ryan.
Yeah.
That's it.
Good luck. Rank your stacks.
Twins, Braves, Orioles, and I assume Kansas City just because that is still a problem for me.
That's going to be Padres, Orioles, probably Braves for me, but I have Braves split up, not just stacks. Rank your pitchers.
Snell, Ryan. I prefer Webb, but from a salary standpoint, Wu might end up being a little bit more useful.
Snell, Ryan, and Grove. Guys, hit that like button one last time. We're at 150, almost up to 1,800. Yeah, 1,800. Up to 800 viewers. Adam, anything else before we get out of here?
Nope.
It's going to do it, folks. Thank you for joining us. Enjoy Live Before Lock. You don't have to go anywhere. Stay right here. Thanks to Jordan for producing. Thanks to Prize Picks for sponsoring. We're out of here.
Yo, it's that time of week again. Time to induct some of you wonderful people into the Stochastic Hall of Fame here. And also give away a whole bunch of free subscriptions to Stochastic Plus Platinum, $120 value. And all you got to do to get in on this fun, crowning achievement, gather the family around, say, honey, I'm in the Stochastic Hall of Fame. Come watch. They're about to announce my name. Go to stochastic.com/avatar. Download the Stochastic profile picture. Tweet your wins when you win at Stochastic HOF on Twitter and win a free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. Get inducted right here. Finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, and boom, you are in. Just like our friend Zach Skaggs, the ever elusive double win. Thank you to the crew and all the tools over at Stochastic. Not getting the free month, but representing Stochastic here. I can appreciate that. 2,250 here in the squeeze and the line drive. Shout out to Zach for a really nice day. And our friend Kenneth Malakar. I don't know what to say. I want to thank all you guys for all the good advice, not to mention all of you guys in chat. Great community of people. Finally, the Hall of Fame, 3rd out of 7,400, $1,000 for a boy who has supported the channel and the site for a long time now. Congrats, Kenneth. We love to see it. And Timmy, first off, Lavi, I'm gonna be up here a lot now, so get it down. The TX is like a CH. So basically, Cha Kiang. Listen, dude, I'm going to be doing this a lot as well, and I can assure you I will not get this down anytime soon. But congrats to Timmy. Love to see it. But, man, not a lot to most y'all, but I'm going to say this. I know nothing about golf, but making nice finishes goes to show you how it's getting done. Pay the man. $800 and a free month of Stochastic. Congrats, Timmy. I'm just kidding. Timmy Chakiang. And then how about Derby status or Perez status? Second day playing DFS, and I shipped the $1 25K mini max for $2,500 and placed second in the $3 MLB 20K moonshot for $1,000. All thanks to Stochastic and the guys there with the great insight and the MLB lineup generator. $4.48 for your first week. You know it. Link in the description, baby. Keith, I'm going to need a punch card at this rate. Yeah, he's been here. He's been up a lot lately. Keith, $300 in the 7,500 solo shot. Next up is Matt. Shout out to the team at Stochastic for helping me out last night. 350 win there in the 10K Wednesday MLB pinch hit. And we keep moving forward with David Colasanto. Almost hit a 4-figure payout twice in a week. I'll settle for second place and a $200 ROI. Thanks again for the advice. Hell yeah, man. Second place out of 7,100 in the mini max. Take that all day long. And Nate Larson, not enough entries to qualify for the free month, but shout out to the lineup generator. 2 of the top spots. I've said it a million times, guys, whether it's high stakes, low stakes, we got you covered. Just like internet points or it's depletes. Not quite enough to retire early, but who needs that when there's the Stochastic Hall of Fame? See this $25 and $850 in the nickel, $600 prize pool, first out of 14,000. But as long as it's top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more and you're not chopping more than 3 ways, you're in. $120 free month. What better way to do it than that in some of these low stakes contests? Shout out to It's the Plates 99 and everybody else. Welcome to the Hall of Fame. You've now been inducted, or welcome back if you've been here before. Remember, download the Stochastic profile picture at stochastic.com/avatar. Tweet your wins at Stochastic HOF and get that free month and get inducted every single Monday right here in the Hall of Fame.
What is happening, everybody? It is Monday. Hope you had a great weekend, and it is time for another MLB Live Before Lock. So as you come in, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Shout out to Prize Picks, who are sponsoring our show today and Monday, which means I've got Eric here. Right along with me, we're going to be talking about the baseball slate, and it is 6 games and some decent options, a lot of chalk that we're going to be breaking down. And also, are you playing on Prize Picks tonight, Eric?
I am going to be playing some Prize Picks.
Nice. Love to hear it. And if you guys want some info on Prize Picks, we're going to be breaking it down a little bit right around the midway point of the show, Eric and I will go through some of our favorite Prize Picks plays of the day. And if you guys have not signed up at Prize Picks, here is why you should. Because you are going to get up to a $100 bonus on your first deposit when you sign up using the link we have below. But wait, there is even more, because you also get 1 free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum when you sign up using that link. And if you guys are like myself and you're in a state that has legalized sports betting, maybe you don't have access to Prize Picks, good news, because we have a similar offer also available over at BetMGM. Or if you sign up at BetMGM using the link we have below, that is also going to get you up to a $100 bonus on your first deposit. And also will get you 1 free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. So if you want a cheap way to get access to the data and tools that we have over at the site, you could go and make it to the Hall of Fame, or you sign up at Prize Picks, you sign up at BetMGM using our links. Eric, how was your weekend?
It's good. Pretty chill weekend. Hit a golf ball around a little bit. Just not much out of the ordinary. Just a business as usual weekend. Getting back to the Lindy's Lock stuff from last night into today. Excited to be doing so, except for when you're on the under of the opening game, it goes bazillion runs over, and people don't understand. It's like overs are always going to look worse when things go to that nature than an under, because like a 2-1 under, it's like, well, okay, whatever. But like when it's 15-6 or some shit, it always looks way worse after the fact. And so just been getting blasted on Twitter here over the course of the last hour or two, just sitting in that filth of having to watch Julio Teheran and just, God, that was awful. Drew Smiley, come on, bro.
So, it's a couple things that are funny about that. Number one, you're just placing, one individual bet, and whether it wins by half a run or it wins by 5 runs or the vice versa, if it loses by half a run or loses, it's the same exact result. It doesn't actually matter on, a yes or no result, how much you win or lose by. It's not like DFS where like, hey, if you cash, it's the same whether you come in first or you come in 5,000, right? It's win or lose when it comes to sports betting. Another thing too is also you guys should be following Eric at Eric Lindquist on Twitter, because he does his Lindy's, leans, likes, licks, whatever he's calling it these days. He does that on the YouTube channel over at OddChopper, but then he posts an update to Twitter, which is way more valuable, I mean this sincerely, than anything myself or anybody else this company is doing on Twitter right now. So go check out Eric, because he's providing actual value to you guys, as opposed to me, which is, I do post some Sims videos, but it's a lot of it too, me trolling Eric a lot of times. Just
thank you.
Talking around with other people as well. So guys, go follow at Eric Lindquist on Twitter if you guys are not already following him. Did you play good golf this weekend at least?
Yeah, I did. I can't make a putt, man. I shot 70, but I had 34 putts, and I'm hitting the ball the best I've ever hit the ball in my entire life, and I can't get the little ball to go in the little hole at all. It's just the most frustrating thing ever to have this happening. Went out and played again Sunday, just lamenting myself, trying to find something with the flat stick. So we're mixing it up. I told my wife, do not let me buy a new putter for at least a month. We've gotten to that point with the putting. It's like I'm praying to God for I don't know, anything to just make the putter feel normal in my hands.
So here's the other part of this. Then we'll get to the baseball slate in a second as well. Who is your PGA comp right now? Who is the player on the tour that you
Luke
think
List,
you're most similar
probably. I hit it shorter than Luke List. I hit it far, but not quite. Lucas Glover. I'm absolutely Lucas Glover. Except for Lucas Glover just switched to a long putter, and now I'm thinking about it. But now I can't switch putters for a month because that's a promise that I've made to myself.
All right, so there we go.
It's dark times in the Lindquist household.
Thoughts and prayers to Eric Lindquist and his putter.
Thank you.
In the meantime, let's talk some MLB DFS. And, it's a 6-game slate. No real significant weather concerns in terms of games that I'm getting off of or anything like that because of the weather. And, that's been a big concern on a lot of recent slates is us talking about the weather. But let's start by looking at the super chalk-it pitcher, which is Blake Snell, kind of in a tier of his own in terms of ownership. We have him projected for 45.5% ownership over on DraftKings, the most popular pitcher on the slate. And I guess we should talk about FanDuel a little bit differently because he's actually not even the most popular pitcher on FanDuel. So let's start by talking about him on DraftKings. $8,600, the chalk of all chalk pitchers today. Eric, what are you going to do with Snell in large field tournaments about even with the field, overweight or underweight?
I'm going to be overweight to him, and it's pretty absurd. I feel like I've ran really, really good in terms of I was targeting Blake Snell a lot early in the season. That went very well. Probably one of my better stands that I had for the first month and a half, 2 months. And I don't know if I just like missed a couple of slates or what happened, but I started looking through his numbers and, well, old Blake Snell is kind of returned. And this is just a ridiculous price point on a 6-game slate. I think there's a lot of ways that I'm going to get different, that I'm going to get away from holding hands with the field. And Blake Snell's not going to be one of them. He's just underpriced. It's an Angels matchup that, yeah, you definitely know there's some right-handed power, and then Ohtani from the left side, who's pretty good at baseball. A lot of pieces with a 110 WRC plus or better, 110 WRC plus on the aggregate for this lineup today, 171 ISO against left-handed pitching. They're really good, but it's a decent ballpark, actually above average ballpark for pitching. And then Blake Snell's strikeout stuff is returned. And from a DFS perspective, if he's going to be limiting the walks, if he's going to be getting the swings and misses, it's really hard to get away from this price point.
I'm about even with the field, and I have no issue with Blake Snell. If you guys are playing cash games, go ahead and play Blake Snell. It's just, I mean, he's projected for about 50% ownership, and that's about how many of my lineups he made it into. Right. So like I've got a ton of Blake Snell. I'm getting to him in a lot of my lineups. I think he's a great pitcher to get to. But in the interest of how I run my lineups through our Sims tool and all the other data, it's just going to be hard to ever get a pitcher in like 80% of my lineups or something like that, which is kind of what would be required to be well overweight to the field with them. So super chalky, chalk that I'm more or less holding hands with the field on. I don't have any issue with that, though. The other two popular pitchers we have, and they're also both expensive, are Joe Ryan and Logan Webb. But before we get to them, I want to ask you, are there any contrarian spend-up pitchers that you like to get to before we talk about Joe Ryan and Logan Webb?
Yeah, comeback Keller. Mitch Keller, I think, is kind of an interesting guy to talk about. It's a Dodgers lineup that's obviously just very, very good and very, very potent. They're sitting up there overall 111 WRC plus against right-handed pitching, 193 ISO. For me, it just comes down to there's only 6 games going. And the guy's got a sub 31.1% hard hit percentage and a 27.3% K rate. And you just start looking through some of who's going to be in this Dodgers lineup today. I'm hoping you continue to get Outman in there. You're going to get Max Muncy back in and a 29% K rate. He can definitely bring some ammo to the table, but can also give you 2 fans for Mitch Keller, 2 or maybe even 3 in some spots. JD Martinez, who's been a hot, 30.6% K rate on the season. So that's 2 of the top 4 batters with better than 29% K rates. James Outman sitting there, 34.6. He's generally been in the 7 or 8 hole against right-handed pitching, been that third outfielder. So I'm feeling as though Mitch Keller is going a little bit underappreciated on this slate. Joe Ryan makes a lot of sense. Logan Webb, like the ground ball rate. I like the real life pitcher, but not really in love with the DFS stuff. It's a drastic dip. You're getting less than a third of the ownership from both of them going to Mitch Keller. It's very difficult, but less than a third of the ownership, and yet just half of the top 2 percentage, not even half of the top 2 percentage on DraftKings today. So Mitch Keller, kind of a logical pivot off of those top guys.
Yeah, I mean, I hate the matchup, right?
It's terrible.
Pitching against the Los Angeles Dodgers, it's terrible, but he's had an ownership. And by the way, we don't even project him that well. Like, if you just look at his projection on our site, it's fairly shitty. We got him for like 14 fantasy points. But despite that, you have to look at the range of outcomes relative to the ownership. And this is why also he's popping up a ton for me when I'm running my lineups through the Sims. And it's because we have, like you said, limited pitching options. There are not that many guys to go to. And of the pitchers that are low owned, here are the ones that are sub 10%. You've got Mitch Keller, you've got Bryce Elder, Gavin Williams, we've got Jaime Barria, and Austin Cox. Now, I think you can make a case for Gavin Williams as a contrarian pitcher as well. You know,
love him.
Heralded prospect, who's also in a very difficult matchup against the Atlanta Braves. But there are only so many so many unowned pitchers I feel good about. And Mitch Keller, while maybe feeling good isn't the right word, I do love the ownership on him. He's sub 10% owned. If you just play Blake Snell, Joe Ryan, Logan Webb, and Brian Wu as your pitchers, I mean, you're doing the exact same thing as the field. And if you want to play any sort of chalky offense, it's just going to be lineups that are really difficult to pass. So I think one of the easiest ways to get different on this slate is playing Mitch Keller, who is priced down for the matchup and then also has no ownership. And his numbers are excellent this year. 3.34 ERA, 3.2 expected ERA. You were mentioning him before being a breakout player this year. And for good reason, Eric. I mean, it's not just those results that are good. The underlying results are good. 27.3% K rate. That's great for fantasy purposes. So that's my favorite contrarian option on the slate.
I'm so with you. He's in 38% of my lineups right now, a large allotment of the lineups, and I feel pretty good about it. If I were making one lineup on DraftKings today, I would argue that Mitch Keller would be in it.
He's in my single entry lineup right now. I just
there
went
you
to go check. So
yeah, I would be going Snell chalky, and I'd be playing Keller with him.
Yeah, no, I have no issue with that whatsoever. And like I said, I'm playing Keller right now in my single entry lineup. I'm going to have to rerun my lineups in a second because I had Ruben and Odor in at second base for the Padres, and now it's actually Matt Carpenter in there. So I'm going to have to make some changes for that and run my lineups again, but it's not going to materially change the kind of exposure I'm getting to Mitch Keller right now. We'll talk about more of the pitchers in a second, but first, let's look at a super chat here from Brandon Wagner. Wants to know, what are y'all thinking for pitching in single entry for DK? So, Eric, I don't think you saw Brandon Wagner's super chat. You just kind of happened to bring that up in the course of the conversation there, but you had said Mitch Keller and Blake Snell, correct?
Correct. I'm actually just entering a couple of things. A lot of things already filled out. I'm going to get in a couple of these single entries as I'm just talking through it. There's the 25. There we go. I'm just going to jump in some things so that I can actually play what I'm talking about here. I feel as though, as I'm running everything on my end here, going with the Sims tool as well, I'm pretty positive Mitch Keller is going to be somebody that ends up being and making the cut here in my sync. Yep, there you go. Top lineup, Mitch Keller, Blake Snell. There was kind of no doubt in my brain about who was going to come up.
Yeah, and I don't have an issue with that being the pitching combination. I do worry a little bit about the ownership of Blake Snell in single entry. Like, he could be like 70, 80% owned today. Now, a lot of this is going to be mitigated if you're playing Mitch Keller. Keller's probably going to be like 5% owned.
Exactly. I think in single entry, you could end up like 3 or 4% owned, but on a 6-game slate.
I would be more inclined to go to Keller and Woo, but I don't have an issue with Keller and Snell as the combination either. And then Brandon Wagner only asked us about pitching, but I think we should add it in as well. If you're only playing one lineup, who would you be stacking in that?
My top projected is Minnesota, so take that for what you will. But I don't think they're going to end up being the team that I roll out with. I'm probably going to roll with Cleveland.
I'm getting to a ton of exposure of the Minnesota Twins. So I think it kind of depends, right? Because I think you can make a case, if you're going really contrarian at pitcher, then I think it's okay to play a twin stack, right? If I'm going with Mitch Keller and then whoever else at pitcher and not playing Blake Snell in single entry, I still think I'm going to have a fairly unique Minnesota Twins lineup. But if I'm going to be getting away from the Twins, let's see, which team do I have the second most exposure to? The second most stack exposure I have is to the Pirates right now against Michael Grove. I don't mind that as a single entry stack either.
I don't mind it at all. Michael Grove is not good. He's just not very good right now. Maybe he can be good in the future, but yeah, he's not very good.
And I'm unfortunately playing him in some of my lineups today, mostly just based on the price point. So
yeah, it makes sense.
It's hard, right? On a 6-game slate, if you're like, I'm playing 150 lineups, I'm going to be getting to some of these guys. Not that he's necessarily a priority for me. In my last run of lineups, I had him in 18%. So nothing crazy, but he is in there for me. But let's talk about the other pitchers now, Eric, because like I mentioned, we do have Blake Snell kind of on a tier of his own in terms of the projected ownership, but Joe Ryan, Logan Webb, these pitchers are also each projected for north of 30% ownership. Between Ryan and Webb, who are, comparably priced on DraftKings, Ryan a little bit more expensive. Do you have a preference between these two as a second most popular pitcher on the slate?
Yeah, I have the preference of getting to Joe Ryan, but it's also really good hitting weather there in Minnesota. Looks like the wind's blowing out a little bit to left. Eric's parents are going to the Game Factor. They're going to tonight's game and tomorrow. And my parents just go to these shootouts lately, man. Put that in your models and smoke it. But Joe Ryan, he's been really, really good. Sub-1 whip. I just think from a real life pitching perspective, Logan Webb has the better chance at success. I like the under of that game in general in San Francisco tonight. But a 24% K rate there. And then you get this Kansas City side for Joe Ryan with a 27.3% K rate and just very little resistance from the left side in that lineup. I think it's got to be Joe Ryan for me today.
Yep, I don't have an issue with Ryan at all. So Ryan is currently, yeah, he's next for me. So in terms of my pitching exposure, it's Blake Snell, Mitch Keller, and then Joe Ryan. He's the guy who comes in next. And I'm a little surprised I'm not getting to more of Woo because the price point is totally broken. I kind of think the ownership is reasonable on him as well. I do think there's a good chance he comes in a little bit more popular than what his projected ownership is. But I think as I've been building out lineups too, the salary savings aren't totally necessary on this slate, right? We talked about, we were like Mitch Keller at 8,800. Blake Snell himself is only $8,600. So I haven't really needed to go all that cheap at pitcher, which is probably why I found that I'm not getting to as much of Brian Woo as I had anticipated. I think he's a great play relative to his price point, but I still am looking at some of the lineups I built with them. And it's like, all right, well, Brian Woo lineups are then leaving like $1,500, $2,000 in salary on the table. So good points per dollar play. But weirdly enough, I think I'd be getting to him more on a bigger slate with more options at offense.
Exactly. It's so condensed today that you have to kind of spread it out somewhere. We've got him projected, I think about appropriately. I don't think the field to have some crazy amount of him, mainly because some of the offensive options. I mean, if you're not going to be stacking up Atlanta in some kind of pronounced way, if you're going to find some way of getting away from Minnesota chalk, there's at least a path to just getting up to all of the top pitchers. It's not going to be all that cost prohibitive to do so. But Brian Woo, there's no doubt he's just continued to make us look good, make Sean V look bad. I always enjoy that. And Sean V astutely pointing out how bad the Twins are against left-handed pitching. Just saying, it's one of those spots where pretty sure that no matter what, Austin Cox coming out of the bullpen, now Austin Cox the starter, they're not going to be the same thing. And really good hitting weather there in Minnesota, which is kind of my apprehension that I'm running into with Joe Ryan at the level of which I have him. Obviously, Mitch Keller is helping me get away from like crazy amounts of him. I'm not at that 40 amount, but still 34% of him feels like a lot for me on this kind of a slate. Feel like I kind of want to trim that and get to maybe a little bit more Woo too.
Yeah, and I'll see what ends up happening when I run my lineups through one more time. Maybe I'll do the ill-advised manual boost of Dylan. I almost call him Dylan Woo. I think you might have done that a second ago.
Dylan Woo. Obviously, he ended up playing some good golf. He beat out the Brandon Woo, who was somebody that I thought would play pretty well, and Dylan Woo put himself in contention this weekend.
Yeah, we spent all that time talking about golf the other day, and I still had Dylan Woo on my mind. But Brian Woo, who we're talking about here, I might just do a manual boost in the Sims tool to get me a little bit more exposure to him and just see how that ends up impacting my lineups, because I do think he's a really good points per dollar play, and I would like a little bit more of him than what I am currently getting to. As we look through some of the other pitching options here, Eric, anything else on the board that's standing out to you relative to ownership?
Yeah, it's got to be Gavin Williams. We've got him projected at 5%. I would be shocked if he ends up 5%. He's a really touted pitching prospect. You brought that up a second ago, somebody that we've highlighted. I just really like the fastball, and I think this fastball plays live at the big league level almost immediately. We're talking about 102 times that he's now thrown this at the big league level. He's got a 222 slugging, actual slugging going with that, a 167 batting average against, and then it's got a 19.2% whiff percentage. I wish he started throwing the changeup. He threw it more at the AAA level, and maybe this is one of those spots where I'm trying to think of the pitcher the other night at Coors who just started throwing his changeup nonstop. And I was like, oh, I took the under on his Ks and I knew I was dead. Ended up losing by the hook. But it's just a young pitcher that if that fastball plays this live, if he can have control of it, even against an Atlanta Braves offense, which is extremely terrifying, probably the most terrifying matchup you can run into right now, I still think there's strikeout upside for him in this spot. And that sounds a little bit crazy, and I know Atlanta has been the darling of everybody, and Acuna's got a 665 expected slugging and a 463 xWOBA hitting lead off there, and he's probably going to go yard right away and make me feel like shit. But he's got a 21.7% K rate even, and I expect that to start trending up slightly, 2.73 expected ERA so far. And again, a fastball that's playing this live this early in his career, I'm going to take shots on.
Is there anything worse than the Pirates lineup just came out? And I'm looking like, don't be anything dumb, because I just finished running my lineups. Just finished. The second my lineups finished running, we got the Pittsburgh lineup coming out, like, just be a normal lineup. And then it's Josh Palacios leading off, which I was not expecting.
Those are the worst.
And now I'm going to have to wait for an ownership update, then rerun all the lineups again. So fun times. Thank you, Pittsburgh Pirates. But Josh Palacios now leading off, and Pittsburgh Pirates, that is the team, as I was saying before, my second most rostered stack on the slate, playing a little bit of both sides of that, both Michael Grove and then the Pirates offense. I think that just the price point on Grove makes him playable. And then on the Pirates side, the fact that Grove is terrible makes them playable. And the Pirates are also fairly inexpensive. So the price of the Pirates and then also the price of Grove, it seems fairly likely to me that at least one of those sides is going to end up going off. The starting lineup here for the Pirates: Palacios, Reynolds, Sawinski, Carlos Santana coming off that epic walk-off home run he had. And then we've got Davis, Gonzalez, Castro, Triolo, and then Hedges is going to be catching today. Looking at some of the other pitching options, Eric, and then we're going to talk about FanDuel in a second as well. Don't want to neglect the FanDuel players at all. Are there any pitchers you are looking at that are picking up too much ownership for you today?
Yeah, Joe, Logan Webb. It's tough. It's really, really tough for me to get to Logan Webb at this level. I think he's an exceptional real-life pitcher. I would be shocked if he didn't have a decent result here. But when you compare him to other arms on the slate, obviously Blake Snell and then a way cheaper price point, Joe Ryan, anybody that you put him up against, even Mitch Keller there, he's going to have the inferior strikeout stuff. It is what it is. He's a really good real life pitcher with north of a 60% ground ball rate, making him the right-handed, I always skip on his name, the lefty from Houston. I always blank as soon as I get to it. I always want to say Jordan Alvarez. Thank you, Framber Valdez. Thank you. My God, Jordan Klein coming through clutch. But just a 24% K rate here. And looking at this lineup here for Seattle, you get a lot of strikeouts early on. Julio Rodriguez, Teoscar Hernandez, and Henio Suarez Kelnick on the back half of it. But it just feels as though the other spots, even on a short slate, I'm better just absorbing those kind of pieces of ownership. I'm a little bit surprised to see him as popular as what we're getting right now, 31.3%. For him to be the third highest owned slate with worse strikeout stuff than Brian Wu, worse strikeout stuff than Mitch Keller, worse strikeout stuff probably long-term than Gavin Williams, obviously not in this spot, I'm going to have to just trim that ownership.
Yep, I'm on the same page as you. He was, I believe, the pitcher I was most underweight to on both DraftKings and FanDuel when I ran my lineups earlier in the day, and still the case for me now as I'm running lineups again. So I'm with you. Logan Webb to me is the most overowned pitcher on the entire slate, the pitcher I'm looking to short the most. And then one other guy I want to ask you about, we're seeing people in chat talk about him a little bit as well. So when it comes to Grove, he's probably not going to start today. Whenever it's his starts, they usually go with an opener just to pitch the first inning. That helps him for DraftKings purposes. It's a negative for FanDuel because he doesn't have access to the quality start bonus at that point. But the reason that it kind of helps him for DraftKings is it means that it's one less time that he has to face the top of the order, right? He's going to get a relief pitcher, face the top of the order. He's going to come and face the middle, the bottom of the order. It doesn't make a massive difference, but I'm saying that if you see, 30 minutes from now that there's some other opener who's starting that isn't Grove, it doesn't change anything.
Yeah, I want to pull up because again, you said Palacios, which is just like great. Wanted to pull up the projected. I was trying to copy paste it off the places you do such things. I couldn't do it at the moment. So I am seeing, all right, there you go. Overall strikeout rate. Oh, this is just fantastic. Yeah, I'm probably with you where he's going to be somebody who maybe shows up in a lineup or two. I wasn't getting to him at all on my last run. Maybe I revamped that a little bit, but doubtful. I'm not a big Michael Grove guy. I wasn't coming into this year. I'm not exactly going to be changing my mind here now.
Yeah. And let's see, I have him in 16% of lineup. So, it's something in there, but it's actually not all that different from the field. He was much lower owned earlier today, and he has picked up a little bit of steam as the day has gone on. Anything else you want to talk about as far as DraftKings pitching goes? If not, we will go and look at the pitchers for FanDuel.
Nope. I think pretty much all set with pitcher. I mean, I have a share of Jaime Barria, which, I mean, he's just a dude at 5,500 that we're talking about 1% compared to Michael Grove's 18.6%. I'm a little bit surprised Michael Grove's that popular. I'll take a little bit of Jaime over any Michael Grove.
All right, so let's go ahead and look at the pitchers from a FanDuel perspective. And it's the same pitchers, obviously. There's nothing that's going to change in terms of the options. But what does change is the pricing and the ownership. And the one thing that is the biggest difference about FanDuel relative to DraftKings today, instead of being 10,900 on FanDuel, Blake Snell was 8,600 on DraftKings. As a result, Snell is projected for nearly 50% ownership on DK, but only 20% on FanDuel. So what do you make of the difference between Snell, between the two sites, where he's a lot more expensive on FanDuel, but we are getting a reduced ownership as a result?
Yeah, so I have one lineup that I built out over on FanDuel here, and it had Blake Snell in it. I thought it was a pretty good spot sitting at 10-9 just to jam him and find 20%. I get the ownership. There's still negative leverage that is existing there. Mitch Keller, the same argument we made over on DK, can make over at FanDuel, but there's so many paths where I can get different with my bats on FanDuel and know that I'm not going to be holding hands with the field on a slate like this on a 6-gamer. Pricing isn't that big of an issue. And that's where I think the 10-9 on Blake Snell, we'll see if it ends up getting there. I'm a little bit surprised to see him at 20.3%, top 1% of 11.9%. But because you have the 8 lineup spots there for the bats and such, like it feels like range of outcomes wise, Blake Snell's floor is so elevated, as opposed to like, if he gets hit up, you move on with your life on a 1-pitcher site most of the time anyway. But like getting beat out by Logan Webb by 4 or Mitch Keller by 6 or something like that, it's not going to affect you that much over on FanDuel, where your batting stats are just so correlated together, and, making sure you're different with those bats and finding different combinations. That's a little bit more important to me. So I think Blake Snell, if I was building one lineup on FanDuel, like I am, I'm literally just clicking him and moving on.
And if you were going to be rostering one of the not popular pitchers on FanDuel, because there's only 3 of them, right? We got Logan Webb project for 27% ownership, Joe Ryan 28% ownership, Blake Snell is at 20% ownership. Every single other FanDuel pitcher, by the fact of it just being a 1-pitcher site, is projected for sub 10% ownership. So if you're playing one of these sub 10% guys, would it still be Mitch Keller on FanDuel? That's, by the way, going to be my answer. Don't want to influence you in any way, but that is my answer. Or is it somebody else that you'd be going to for sub 10% ownership?
Nope. Exact same argument we made on DK. Mitch Keller would be the guy. I mean, it's Blake Snell, Mitch Keller. They're kind of the 2 pitchers that I've made my bed with here over on DK. I'm happy on FanDuel to be firing them up. Please don't make a "you made your bed" joke, please.
I'll say this. We made our bed last Domingo Germán slate by not playing him and looking like absolute.
You put up 52
looking like absolute dunce clowns. We did not play Domingo Germán. He pitched a perfect game at chalk.
Not playing him today either.
Domingo Germán today is not projected for all that much ownership. He's projected for, and I kind of want to make Domingo Germán his own separate conversation, because I'm not playing him again for basically all the same reasons I didn't play him last time. I don't think he's good. But at least one difference today is he's not projected for ownership. He is 7% owned right now on FanDuel in our projections, and then projected for 14% on DK at $7,200. I think the price point might be appealing to a lot of people, considering that he just pitched a perfect game in his last outing. But what are you going to be doing with Domingo Germán, who I wouldn't be surprised if he gets steamed a little bit just by people looking at box scores?
I have 0%.
Let's see, am I at 0?
I'm at flat 0. I don't have a share of Domingo Germán. So enjoy that 52 points coming back for you, fam. Enjoy it. I kind of wish he was more popular. I hope that artificial bump is there that we can't necessarily project out, because Baltimore flat leverage is always fun. Like, this is a really good offense on a 6-game slate to be overweight to. I just wish you were getting a more popular Domingo Germán, because it feels as though Kansas City's going to be a team that I get to more than I want against Joe Ryan. And it's purely because of ownership and the hitting environment. I'm pretty positive I'm going to end up running into more Pittsburgh against Michael Grove, because I think he's terrible. And, there's actual ownership coming in there. It's weird to see Michael Grove way more popular than Domingo Germán today.
Yeah, if you look at and I do think that it's one of these situations that it's really hard to project for, right? We're a data company. Everything we're doing is data driven. It's based on, these are the projections on Domingo Germán. These are his results for the year. Therefore, this is his projected ownership. But it's really hard to project the human element, which is people saying, this guy pitched a perfect game and scored 1 million fantasy points last game. I want to play him again. So if I was going to look at Domingo Germán's projection, if you said that I had to choose whether he's going to be overweight to his ownership projections, underweight, or at the field, I'm going to say overweight. But I'm always going to guess overweight when you get a situation like this where somebody just pitched a perfect game. And I wouldn't be surprised too if people in the chat are wanting to play him. But Domingo Germán, this obviously includes the perfect game, by the way. 4.54 ERA, 4.44 expected ERA, 4.87 xFIP this year. He's been terrible. He had one exceptionally good start against the Oakland A's and has been bad other than that. And I say bad things about him basically every single time he starts. So he's made 15 outings this year. One of those takes has gone extremely poor. By and large part, the other 14 have gone well. So I'll be underweight to the field on Herman. I don't expect that I'm going to have 0 shares of him because I just looked at my last run and I had 5% of Herman, but still that's well short of what the field is at.
Have you ever seen a box score like this? I mean, obviously, the perfect games only happen so many times. So we'll just call it like a no-hitter or a complete game shutout. We'll throw him in that capacity. But he went against Boston, 7 earned. Against Seattle, 8 earned. Goes into Oakland, throws a perfect game. Like, that is just as dumb as it gets.
And he had, like I was saying, he had some starts. Like the one you mentioned against the Mariners, he was uber popular that. He was like 50% on that night.
So dumb.
It was a smaller slate, but he was very popular that night, if I remember correctly.
It sure was. Just pain. All I feel is pain.
Right. So anything else you want to bring up at pitchers?
Not particularly. I mean, it's a fun slate to try to take shots on a Gavin Williams at 1%. Brian Wu at 5% on FanDuel. That's somebody that I think I would be overweight too if I were playing more lineups. There's certain spots and certain nuances to each site today that I think makes it a really fun puzzle to put together. But overall, I mean, for me, there's just like 1 or 2 really large stands that it seems like my lineups are taking against the field for large field stuff. And we'll get into that here at Stacks. As far as pitching goes, I'm a little bit over on Blake Snell. I'm way under on Logan Webb. That seems to be the deal. And then just getting a little bit overweight to some of these pitchers pulling almost no ownership.
Got a super chat here from Jorge. And after we answer Jorge's super chat, Jordan, we'll go and we'll look at the lineup generator and we'll see what lineups we could build for the people and we'll comment on them as well. But first, Jorge's super chat. Jorge wants to know thoughts on San Diego and Atlanta instead of a high-owned Neil's team. By the way, the high-owned Neil's team, for people who aren't aware, Neil loves himself the Minnesota Twins. By the way, as does Eric, but it does seem like Neil's a little bit more emotionally invested in his teams. Like Eric's emotionally invested in a lot of things, but Neil is very more so emotionally invested in Minnesota sports. So Jorge's question is, what do we think about San Diego and Atlanta as pivots off of Neil's team? First of all, I should say that I think the ownership on Minnesota is very warranted today.
Yes.
So I don't necessarily want to get away from them. But now in terms of the other teams you've asked me about, I love the Padres today. I'm overweight to them. I'm not getting to a lot of Braves, which is always concerning because the Braves have the most ridiculous upside ever. And you could be dead 2 innings in because they've already hit 3 home runs at that point. But in terms of my current exposures, I get to the Twins the most of these teams you're talking about, the Padres the second most, and I'm overweight to them. And the Braves I'm underweight to going up against Gavin Williams. What do you make of the Padres and Braves as stacks?
I think the Padres and Braves are fantastic. They both stand out in the top stacks tool. They both pop. I will say Atlanta. I've been glorifying Gavin Williams. He's 1% owned, for the love of God. Like, I can make a case for getting to 15% of him. I'm not saying that you should be just jamming Gavin Williams or anything. Atlanta is still the best offense in baseball over the course of the last month, probably over the course of the last year, with Tampa Bay, like 1-2 in their respective leagues. So Atlanta, they are really popping for me. Still going to be having some against Gavin Williams. He's had some location issues. I think that bodes really nicely for stacks as well. And then the crazy amount of power they have in every single spot in that lineup, usually good stuff. But San Diego's a team that I wish I was getting to a little bit more, but because all these teams with top stack percentages, because the Sims are just jamming Minnesota for me, I'm finding it difficult to get to as much San Diego as I think I want.
Yeah, I have right around 10% of the Padres right now. So it's a team that I am getting to some of for sure. Not like a crazy amount. We're going to talk about the Twins in a little bit. It's a team that I'm definitely getting to the most of. But anyway, to your question, Jorge, that's my answer. I'm still overweight to the Twins, overweight to the Padres, and then the Braves I'm coming in underweight to. Let's go ahead and look at some of the lineups in the MLB lineup generator, which I have a feeling is going to give us a lot of the Minnesota Twins. I understand this team is projected to be popular today, but still a team that, number one, has great points per dollar metrics. We rate them as by far the team most likely to be the top value stack of the slate. And then also, relative to their ownership, at least on DraftKings, it's going to be a little bit different. We talk about them from a FanDuel perspective, but at least from DraftKings, it does seem warranted. Right, we have them with a 14.6% projected ownership, 13.2% top stack odds. What stands out the most, 27.8% chance to be the top value stack of the team on the slate, which is why they do have a really strong leverage score for us right now in our top stacks tool. So Jordan, build all stack types and just click contrarian. I want to see what we get to come up if it's contrarian. I have a feeling we're still going to be getting to primarily the Twins.
That is correct.
That would
Spanish Armada, 1582.
Oh, some Dodger stacks. Saw some other Twins.
Oh, some Dodgers.
Lots of Twins. By the way, we made contrarian stacks. We did get to Logan Webb here, but in terms of hitters, Farmer, Buxton, Miranda, Correa, all Twins. Brian Wu, our next most rostered pitcher. Blake Snell, we did come in a little bit underweight to making contrarian lineups here. Then we got to the Dodgers as a contrarian stack. One thing that's funny about this slate, Eric, is while I am well overweight to Mitch Keller, the Dodgers are also my second most rostered stack today. Yep. I'm heavily playing both sides of that spot. I think the Dodgers are too low owned considering what their upside is. And then the same goes for Mitch Keller. And also Keller priced down a little bit from where we normally see him price. So I think there's a lot of upside on both sides. A lot of people might look at this and be like, hey, if you guys like Mitch Keller, why are we getting to a bunch of Dodger stacks here? I do like both sides of the game.
I wish they would have released their lineup for us, but yes, I'm with you where I think the Dodgers are phenomenal for leverage. Again, another reason that San Diego, as much as I would like to get to them, they're just not coming up for me outside of Fernando Tatis, who pretty much always pops up for me. Seems like the reasons why are pretty self-explanatory. Juan Soto as well, getting to around 12% of, which is, I don't know. I feel like that might end up being under the field when we get to the flip. But as it is right now, Dodgers, my God, they're really, really nice as leverage.
Yeah, Dodgers low owned. Pirates, Mitch Keller pitching also low on the Pirates offense, also not picking up all that much ownership. Anything else that stands out to you from these lineups that we built in the MLB lineup generator?
Let me take a look. I mean, Brian Wu is actually 44%. That's a pretty hefty number of Brian Wu. Getting more of him than Blake Snell, which is pretty wild for our first iteration and run of 20 there. Adley Rutschman, Baltimore. There you go. I was looking for my Baltimore Orioles. I really like them today.
Yeah, there's some Orioles, like you said, Adley Rutschman, and then was that Gunnar Henderson underneath them? Yeah, Gunnar Henderson.
You lost it for me, Gunnar. You lost it for yourself.
And there's some Domingo Germán at 17% for the people who want to chase the perfect game. He did show up in some lineups. So there's an overview of what we got for the lineup generator for DraftKings purposes. And if you guys want to sign up for this, it's such an easy tool to use, and you are going to get this for less than $5 when you sign up for the first time. And we've seen some people have really big wins. Neil himself a couple weeks ago came in third in the $3 moonshot over on DraftKings yesterday. Arthur, oh my God, am I going to fuck up Arthur's last name? Arthur Batalagonis.
That was really nice.
Sorry, Arthur. I've really tried my best. But he tweeted at me and at Steve Buzzard yesterday, and he was telling us 6 for 7 in the last week. He's also in our chalkboard channel, I believe, and he's adding us in there and showing us some of his results. But really, really good run here for Sick Mosh. Recently signed up for the site. He's been using the lineup generator. He's been using our advice on shows, and he has cashed 6 out of 7 days since he started using our tools over here. He's primarily been playing cash games. He's running lineups through the MLB lineup generator. He's listened to our shows, like I said, and you guys get access to all this for less than $5 when you sign up for the first time using the link below. So Sick Mosh, our guy Arthur, thank you very much for the success and for tweeting us. We do appreciate you showing off some of your recent results. Let's build some lineups for FanDuel now. And same deal, Jordan. We'll build contrarian lineups and see what we get to. I'm seeing Twins again. I think I've seen the Twins in every single lineup so far.
And Twins.
Buxton, Miranda, Castro, Solano. Those are our 4 most rostered hitters, and then not far behind, we've got Kyle Farmer, Carlos Correa. Lots of Twins popping up when we're building contrarian lineups here for FanDuel purposes. Are getting to Logan Webb. So that's the one thing I'm going to disagree with a little bit here. Not that we have to agree with 100% of what our data says, but getting to more Logan Webb than I would like to get to. I prefer the other 2 expensive pitchers. And then if you keep scrolling down, once again, it looks like the Dodgers are the team that we're getting the second most exposure to. The stacks are pretty much what I'm looking at as well. Like I'm getting to a lot of Twins, getting to a lot of Dodgers. Anything else here that's standing out to you, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, we're getting to virtually none of the expensive Atlanta Braves, as far as I see it. You're getting more Padres, Dodgers, those are showing up. It takes a little while to get down to the Eddie Rosario, Austin Riley. Very curious to see where Atlanta shows up on FanDuel. They are the team that I have stacked up against my boy Gavin Williams over there. They are expensive. Ronald Acuna, 4,800 on FanDuel now. Matt Olson, 4,400. They might come in lower owned over on FanDuel because, I mean, normally we just kind of jam best available pitcher, best available offense because FanDuel pricing ends up being weak, but like it's better pricing than DK has today. Just throwing it out there. I wish I had played a little bit more out there, but Blake Snell can't really show up with your Atlanta stacks getting to the main boppers there. It just doesn't work. So you got to kind of make some kind of concessions. And I think that's where, even a little bit of savings getting to a Mitch Keller might actually have some utility there. Getting down and trying to play one of the cheapies. I mean, Brian Woo's even 9,200 over on FanDuel. Really sharp stuff, just seeing 9K plus pricing on the expensive pitchers, kind of forcing you out of some of those no-brainer builds. So Atlanta not showing up. That's usually a fun thing in the lineup generator to know. Maybe I should get to a little bit more.
All right. So let's go ahead and move on to us talking about our favorite stacks of the slate. Really quick, though, because we don't have a ton of time left, but I just want to ask, do you have any Prize Picks plays for the people? And just a reminder that if you guys want to sign up at Prize Picks, we have a link below when you sign up to a $100 bonus on your first deposit and 1 free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. And we have the same deal available at BetMGM as well if you guys have access to BetMGM, but not Prize Picks. And if you or anybody you know has a gambling problem, call or text the number 1-800-GAMBLER and look at how happy that would make Eric Lindquist, who is grinning ear to ear in that graphic there. There he is. So happy. But now getting back to Prize Picks really quick, Eric, do you have any plays that you really like for Prize Picks purposes to bring to the people?
I hate you so much, Jordan Klein. You're literally the stone cold worst human being that has ever walked this earth. But either way, Byron Buxton and Carlos Correa, 7.5 and 7-hitter fantasy score against Austin Cox. Oh, daddy likey. Put them together and correlate them. I'm a big correlating your props guy when it comes to these hitter props and kind of having your pairings. Ronald Acuna at 11.5 hitter fantasy score. It's just insane to be looking at. Like the under of that one, even though he's been exceptional, absolutely exceptional all season long. You could pair it with the Betts Freeman side of that for hitter fantasy score. As much as we like Mitch Keller, definitely think that they could be correlated on 8.5 and 8 respectively at the top of that Dodgers lineup. So a lot of different spots in the hitter fantasy score. It's kind of where I've gravitated to a lot of late. Projects out pretty well overall, but by far the dream duo there, Byron Buxton and Carlos Correa, really hard not to see those kind of numbers on Prize Picks and not be interested in throwing them in about every card.
All right. So let's go ahead and move on to our favorite stacks of the day. And, we've been talking about a lot over the course of the show, Eric, but the Twins are projected to be the most popular stack on the slate. Not by an insane margin, right? It's not like they're projected on FanDuel, they're projected to be a lot more popular than everybody, but it's not like on DraftKings, we're looking at them as like 20% owned or anything like that. And Jordan's pulling the top stacks tool up on the screen right now. But if you do scroll over to the right a little bit here, Jordan, you guys are going to see that we have the Twins projected for a really strong leverage score. So you see right there, we've got the Twins with a leverage of 2.3, whereas the Royals, the only team with a better leverage score. And that's solely just because of the ownership that's projected to go to Joe Ryan. So Twins, really popular, 14.6% projected owned as a team. Are you going to be overweight to that mark, Eric?
Looks like it. It's a team that is just popping in the Sims tool, and it's really hard to argue with it in any way, shape, or form. Austin Cox, you can look at every peripheral number there, but same thing with Jaime Barria. You go from a bullpen role and you start becoming a stretched out long reliever, you become a long reliever into a starter. It seems to be kind of the progression. You're going to see the K stuff and the overall stuff just take a major dip. I don't really find this fastball that he's throwing over 50% of the time to be all that enticing of an offering here. Minnesota's been atrocious, as Sean V astutely pointed out over the course of this season against left-handed pitching, just an 85 WRC plus, but we got to throw a but in there. You've had a couple of spots where Carlos Correa has been dinged up. Byron Buxton, he misses a fraction of games almost every single season since the beginning of time. Otherwise, the apocalypse would be honest. We get Jose Miranda back in this lineup after getting retooled and revamped a little bit at AAA because he had some problems at the beginning of this season. Donovan Solano's been surprising with the 287 expected batting average. Like the Carlos Correa move up to the leadoff spot. Kyle Farmer, not my favorite guy batting cleanup. I'm getting away from all the crazy ownership coming in on it there, but everybody else is just popping against a pitcher that I don't think has a whole lot to offer on the bump. And then in addition, hitting weather's phenomenal up there in Minnesota. So it's a tough spot for me to say you shouldn't have some twin exposure. And in my case, it just seems like I'm over the field on everybody besides Kyle Farmer.
Yeah, so I'm overweight to the field on the Twins on DraftKings. It's funny, though, because for FanDuel purposes, it's the same players. They're still cheap, but the difference is we got the Twins projected for north of 20% ownership as a team on FanDuel. So at that kind of ownership, I came in underweight to the field when I was building lineups, whereas DraftKings, I come in overweight to the field. And that's what will happen when a team is, 7-8% less projected owned on one side compared to another, even though their odds of success are still relatively the same. It's just the ownership difference, to me, makes them under-owned on DraftKings, a little bit over-owned on FanDuel. Now, something else to bring up is our Pittsburgh Pirates. They've brought up a little bit here. Einsteinium in the Discord chat is saying Pittsburgh for all of the money today. Eric, you've made it clear that you're no fan of Michael Grove. I'm playing some of him in tournaments today. Not anything crazy, though, kind of more in line with the field. But I also mentioned Pittsburgh is a stack that I'm going to be overweight to the field to. What are you doing with Pittsburgh now that we're about 10 minutes into lock?
Yeah, well, when you said Palacios was leading off, it took me a second to kind of get everything updated. I'm not completely in love with the back half of this lineup. It's brutal. Nick Gonzalez, Rodolfo Castro, Jared Triolo, Austin Hedges. These are not good hitters. I might have to go back on Michael Grove and actually have some exposure, because as I'm plugging them in and having everything show up for me, I like the top half of this Pittsburgh lineup. I really like Brian Reynolds. I like Palacios to a certain extent, as much as you can like Josh Palacios. 322x WOBA, that's not exactly abhorrent by any means, but Carlos Santana, the guy I'm getting to the second most next to Jack Sawinski, and then Brian Reynolds is kind of a luxury item, but God, I hate the back half of this lineup. Those last four specifically, none of them grading out as even like average major leaguers for me. So Henry Davis, kind of 1 through 5, just kind of getting smatterings of them as 3-mans. And it just, they're not going to be a team that I 5-man all that much, it looks like.
Yeah, so it's funny, after that lineup came out, I actually did, after every one of my lineups got to slightly less to the Pittsburgh Pirates. I still like them as a contrarian team, but I do have to go back on something. I'm getting to more of Michael Grove than I thought I was going to before. So I actually do have Michael Grove now as my most rostered value pitcher on the entire slate. And it's, I guess, primarily because of what this Pittsburgh Pirates lineup looks like. I was not expecting to get this much of Michael Grove.
Well, think about some of the omissions in the lineup. Specifically, you get no McCutchen, no Connor Joe, even Mercano. I don't know if he's going to be all that good, but I mean, you have no choice but to roll out a bad catcher in either Hedges or Delay at every time that you're rolling out that lineup. You're looking for that one-time jack from one of them in your stacks, but like it's just a horrible back half of the lineup. So yeah, for me, I'm primarily looking at 3-mans from Pittsburgh, and that is it.
Yeah, and we also don't quite have an ownership projection yet on Like, I like Palacios as a value hitter, just from a standpoint of he's leading off and he's almost min price. It's fair. I'm interested to see what his ownership ends up being, though, because last I looked, that is not quite there yet. So we'll see what that ends up being. And by the way, if anybody has any questions for us in Discord, at me, so we could answer those as we go here. And if you guys want to check out more of our content in podcast form, we've got our podcast channel that you guys could sign up. Obviously, podcast, totally free to download a podcast. And not a lot of people are listening to us on podcasts. We're trying to grow that up. And even if you guys just want to support us, do us a favor. Go check out the Stochastic Daily Fantasy Podcast channel and just leave us a 5-star review. We do appreciate stuff like that if it helps us keep our content free. And if you do want to listen to us via podcast, subscribe to that and still leave us the 5-star review. What is your favorite contrarian stack of the entire slate, Eric?
Oh, I mean, probably Baltimore at this point. I'm doing one more run because this is absurd. Also, Cleveland. I know that they're negative leverage at this point in time, but there's at least bats that I like getting overweight to in that lineup. Not necessarily a 5-man thing for me. Pittsburgh, God, I can't do the 5-man Pittsburgh thing with the way this lineup rolled out. Did we get an update to the top stacks tool? Because it has been 26 minutes. Let me refresh this. 24 seconds ago. Ask and you shall receive. That's incredible. So we're going to do this one more time. So there's still positive leverage going to Pittsburgh. I'm still not going to be 5-manning them. It looks like it's just a team that on the back half of the lineup, I find it pretty unsustainable. Looks like for me, it's going to be Minnesota one. And then, yeah, for as far as contrarian ones go, Baltimore not pulling all that much ownership. They're fifth in terms of ownership share on the aggregate, or sixth now. They're right behind Atlanta there. So Atlanta and Baltimore being somewhat contrarian, like that a lot. Getting to a little bit of Cleveland. And then Kansas City. I think anytime you have a starting pitcher in bad environments, it just takes one swing. It takes one mistake, and you can end up running into a 3 or 4 earn run situation. So Joe Ryan, as much as I like him as a starting pitching option on this slate, still like the top half of that Kansas City lineup, getting overweight to pretty much every bat there.
Yeah, so just looking at the final version of my lineups, it's always nice when something we talked about kind of ends up working out in the final run. I'm getting overweight to the Baltimore Orioles now. If I already said that, I don't really like Domingo Germán all that much as a pitcher or a person for that matter.
I also think, being.
Like I said,
did not cheer.
There is a really good chance that he's going to be higher owned than what our projection is on him at 14.3%. So I think that's all the more reason too. You might be getting some leverage going to the Baltimore Orioles here against the Yankees. And then also at Yankee Stadium, so a good park upgrade here for the Baltimore Orioles. So reason for me to like them as well. And then are you considering the Angels at all? Just considering the fact that Blake Snell is as popular as he is?
Yeah, I mean, I bet Shohei Ohtani is plus 450 on FanDuel right now to hit a home run. You know how fun that is? Like, left on left is a thing for a lot of people. Shohei Ohtani, don't care. Don't care. Give me plus 450 on a guy who it seems is just locked in. And then also, let's say Blake Snell runs into some trouble, starts walking some guys. You're running into possibly 4 innings, 3 innings for sure, you would think, of potential right-handed relievers coming out of the pen there for San Diego. Shohei Ohtani feels like a pretty good number on to be getting to that. Same way that I talked about, though, Joe Ryan, you can stack up against any popular pitcher, probably going to be running into positive leverage in that regard, especially a team that's as good at hitting as what these Angels are, sitting with a 110 WRC plus against left-handed pitching for the season. I just prefer getting to Kansas City, considering they're kind of likened ownership and much better hitting environment.
I really gave a strong look to playing the Angels in single entry, just from a standpoint of I think Blake Snell is going to be like 80% owned, but I opted to not do it. And
who did you roll out?
Let's see. So what did I ultimately end up?
I ended up going Baltimore, Cleveland in my single entry.
So my single entry ended up being, after all the news that we got and everything, I am with the Michael Grove and trying to figure out which one. All right. So Michael Grove and Mitch Keller is my starting pitchers, and then an Orioles stack.
Yeah.
That's what
it's so wild how a lineup can roll out and make you just flip your entire stance. Like, I hate Michael Grove. All right, I guess I'll play 15% of him. That seems to be just what happened here in the last 15 minutes. So that's always fun.
Yeah. I'm trying to do one more run of lineups just because we just got that ownership update, but I don't know if I'm going to get it in time just because, I have to build out 2,000 lineups, upload them to the Sims tool, and then rewrite them over my existing lineup. So we'll see. I'm going to try to do it, but whether I actually get this in before lock is very much up in the air. Anything else about this slate, Eric, that we've not yet talked about today that you think is important to the slate, or any kind of stacks or anything that we should tell everybody before we sign off?
I wish I had played more on FanDuel. It's really fun looking at my lineups that I ended up building out like a larger allotment rather than just a couple of these hand builds. And it is really cool how some of these lineups ended up panning out. For the most part, though, I just think it's a really good slate to try to find interesting ways to be contrarian. At the same time, that this is like a lesson, and you can still play the chalk. You can still have popular Minnesota Twins bats. You just have to find formulaic ways to get to them.
Yep, I don't have any difference of opinion on that. And I think the main way we're getting different is Mitch Keller at pitcher, right?
Yes, well overweight.
By the way, is DraftKings down right now?
Hope not.
Because I'm trying to upload lineups.
I'm trying to upload more.
Spinning.
Trees.
I don't know if
need the dong picks. Oh, mine came in. So maybe change your check your location. That's always something that once in a while pops up for me, where it's like, oh shit, cool. They hate me. They can't find me.
Yeah, well, that could also be the case. Yeah, it's just spinning when I try to upload.
Seems bad.
Yeah, so now I actually have no clue what it is I'm playing today.
Good luck to you.
Yeah, I'm trying to upload lineups, but I don't know what it is that I'm playing.
I see your lips moving, but I can't understand the words.
Let's see. Yeah, it looks like I'm playing dummy lineups today, unless these will take right now.
Come on, please, 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 please. Don't do it.
Okay. I mean, I've got all the things in the CSV format. Everything is correct, but it's
so
just
50 seconds.
Yeah,
let's sweat it. Come on, everybody. All of us together now, birds of a feather now. Let's do it.
I'm going to try to make one more CSV and see what ends up happening here. If this one actually
sweat,
takes.
baby, sweat.
By the way, what I am trying to do here is play the Orioles in my single entry lineup, but I don't know if that's going to be allowed or not.
25 seconds. Normally, this is me. This is very strange. I don't know how to feel about this.
But this is also not anything I could do anything about because I'm trying to upload them and it just won't take the lineups. All right. It's just spinning. So for all I know, by the way, is that while it's spinning the lineups uploaded, it's just not telling me they're uploaded. So we'll see. I'll find out 3 hours from now if my lineups are any good or not. This is kind of a win-win for me at this point, right? Because if I lose, it's not my fault. The site fucked up. If I win, I could take all the credit for it. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. If you have not done yet, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. What did I play in DFS? I don't know. I'm about to find out soon. Thank you very much for watching, guys. By the way, if you guys are going to be celebrating the holiday tomorrow, happy 4th of July. I'm going to be doing multiple shows tomorrow, so I'll be sticking around here. Hope to see you guys. If not, enjoy the holiday and see you here Wednesday.